Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trainer Profiles here. We have another episode for you today that should be a pretty spicy one. Today, you're going to get to see what happens when you see a immovable object. What happens when it meets a unstoppable force, an evil, no good, dirty, whatnot pack breaker is going to talk to a dirty flipper, scalper, eBay seller here, and we're going to get down to the nitty gritty about what he loves as a collector. Dan, do you love Pokemon?
I love Pokemon.
What? Pokemon? Wait, I thought you were an evil. I thought you sold Pokemon. It was my impression that you can't sell Pokemon and collect it and love it at the same time. What's going on? No, hold on. You're a collector. Anyway, I'm sorry. First of all, let me introduce everyone. Dan at KetchumAllCollectibles. We have our guests here. If you haven't already, please go down to the description here. We're going to link to his YouTube. Go follow his YouTube because I'm sure you've probably heard of Dan before. He's been all over this hobby. But Dan, if my viewers haven't possibly heard of you, where can they find you besides your lovely YouTube? Feel free to plug any of your other social media outlets there.
Yeah, I'm KetchumAllCollectibles pretty much everywhere. YouTube, eBay, Instagram, and then I do have a Facebook too, just because you can cross post from Instagram to Facebook so easily. And then Pokenomics, I'm partnered with that Patreon and the Discord.
Which fantastic Discord. If you are into like, I don't know, I want to say like I don't want to say highbrow, but like analytics, like talking about like PSA population reports, graded cards, a lot of vintage, a little bit of modern. It's a safe space for you. I mean, you can be a modern collector in there, but you gotta have a thick skin. But for pretty much everything else, you're pretty safe. So I will shout out that Patreon as well because I'm a part of it. I very much so enjoy that Patreon. Besides for the fact that it eats up a ton of my time. So I think I've heard your fellow co-hosts on your podcast, Dan, because Dan has a podcast, Pokeflipz. He didn't shout out his podcast, but I'm going to shout out his podcast for him. There will also be a link down there to his new podcast. He did the very, very well-advised move of splitting his YouTube channel. So once he had an established following, he decided it was probably a good idea to go to a new channel. He probably had James from Z&G advising him on that one. Hey, shout out to you, James. Yeah. If you're listening, we'll dig at you. Love you, James. Love to have you on the channel sometime. I know you're a busy guy. But yeah, you decided to go ahead and start another channel to do your podcast, which I actually think is a great idea because I have done that myself as well. Now, I have an even smaller channel than you and a smaller podcast, and I decided to do the same thing, so I totally understand. So as much as I'm joking here, it makes sense.
Yeah, shout out Paper Hands Podcast. I love what you guys are doing over there. It's always a fun listen.
Yeah, my podcast, we just added a new member, Retrospects, and so we're going to be a little a trio now instead of a duo. For a few reasons, but I really enjoy Nick's perspective on things. He's a good spicy talker, so I enjoy the spicy talk. So today in our interview, we are going to be mostly talking, as I alluded, about collections and what we love about the hobby and kind of what got Dan into it. But we're probably going to throw in some spicy topics as well. We've already been throwing some little spicy licks here and there. So I guess we'll keep the Szechuan pepper flakes for a little later. I did want to ask you a couple things though, Dan. I had an agenda tonight. I wanted to kind of ask you some things about yourself and your sort of collection and your journey in this hobby, because we talk a ton about investing and stuff, but there's not enough, I think, talk about the love of collecting. And I know everyone has sort of an origin story, right? Everyone's kind of got that playground origin story, or maybe the origin story that got you back into the hobby, like back in the recent times. But I wanted to ask you, what got you back into the hobby, or what got you into the hobby? Like, what is the driving force for you that got you into, I guess, Pokemon in general? Like, why are you here today? That's what I want to know from you for our first question.
Yeah, so I guess I'll go way back to the playground. It was kind of I'm 32, so 1999, fourth or fifth grade. It was the standard story. It was a phenomenon when it hit the shores in the US. I wasn't a huge anime guy, but I was big into, I had Pokemon Yellow, which is why I got that poster. Unfortunately, I don't have like a sealed copy, but I do have my I don't think I have the box for yellow, but I do have complete inbox crystal. And yeah, the video games and the cards were where I was at. And Catch 'em all collectibles, got to catch 'em all on E4. Just enthralled by trying to catch them all, doing the best I can to do that. So yeah, the video games for sure, yellow and crystal were my two. I know a lot of people red or blue were the original ones. I waited until the third one came out. I had the easy path, getting all three starters just handed to me. So I have an affinity for Charmander, clearly. I went with him for the logo for the channel. And then kind of like the normal intro in 1999, kind of the normal outro in the early 2000s. I don't remember off the top of my head the exact, I guess I could just Google it quickly, but Sapphire was my last game.
Okay. Do you remember the last TCG set that you pulled? I famously remember putting a Shining Magikarp in one of my binders behind a base set Magikarp, because when I was young, didn't realize the difference and just put it in my binder behind a base set one, because I'd put 4 cards in each slot. But that was the last set, was Neo Rev for me. So
see, you had to slot it. I mean, base set Magikarp, that's the rookie, right? I mean, Shining Magikarp has nothing on him.
It was up on the front. It was the first card. So I was taking cards out of my binder and I pulled and the fourth one of the Shining Magikarp. I was like, sure.
Yeah, so for me, like base jungle fossil was the bulk of my collection, and then I did have rocket and a little bit of gym, and then extremely small amounts of the neo sets. I think I had a little bit of Genesis. I don't think I had anything beyond that, so I'm cheating. I'm looking here. Looks like I got out of the cards by 2001-ish, and then I stuck with the video games. Sapphire released in 2003, so I did stick with the games for a couple years longer. I live out in the woods in upstate New York, and like a common thing over the summer is camping. We drive further north, deeper into the woods, and a lot of times it would be an hour drive, couple hour drive up into the Adirondacks. And then when you're camping and the weather's nice, fishing, tubing on the boat, riding bikes around the campground. But we'd go for like a week or 2 weeks straight, and you'd have naturally some rainy days. So those rainy days, I'd have the Game Boy Color out, that kiwi green Game Boy Color, rocking crystal or yellow version, catching them all. And then late at night in the tent too, you got that little worm light, that magnifying glass, all that stuff decked out kiwi Game Boy Color. So
before backlit, before you had the backlit Game Boys.
I did, yeah. So I went from yellow to crystal to sapphire for the games, and for systems I went from the kiwi Game Boy Color, indigo, Game Boy Advance, and I forget what they called it exactly, the red SP. So I did go all the way to the SP.
I never went that far. So that was the one that I kind of cut out before that one. But we have a very similar story as far as Genesis wise and as far as that's concerned. Now, shifting more back to kind of more recently, what got you back into the hobby now that you're like an adult? Because you, like most other people, you said around, the Neos, you kind of got out of it, and out of Ruby Sapphire, you kind of finished. So you probably kind of went through your life, you did your normal thing, and you came back to it at a certain point. But I came back at Hidden Faith. So where was it about the time period that you came back?
So I think I've mentioned this once before. Usually I kind of shortcut it, but for whatever reason, I feel like going for the slightly longer version. 2011, I had a failed almost re-entry into the hobby, and I kick myself. Like sometimes people will bring up what's your biggest regret. So in 2011, that's when I graduated college. And for whatever reason, I was moving back home, moving things around my room, whatever the case may be. I found my own binder, and I found that, like, from back in the day, I had completed base set because Santa, nice. I never pulled a base set unlimited Charizard, but thankfully, like a few years later, Santa got it for me. So that worked out.
I just scammed my cousin for hers, but that's another story.
But yeah, I looked through my binders, and I want to say it was like Hollow Wigglytuff, and then a couple other random cards from like Unlimited Jungle. I needed those, and I'm just like, I wonder if these are worth anything. I hopped onto eBay. At some point I'll have to find the records of those. I did look at them years ago, but I hopped on eBay. I spent a couple bucks per card. I ordered the ones I needed. I put them in the slots and I put the binders away. And I just like, I didn't look into, are there new sets going on? I didn't look into anything else. Are there new games? So 2011, that would have been like black and white,
I was
early
gonna say
black
that's
and white
black and
era.
white era, right? Like the Legendary
Yep.
Treasures era, kind of. So
But for whatever reason, like I literally logged onto eBay, bought the few cards I needed. I must not have seen any of the new modern product. I didn't have any
I don't
inclination
blame
that
you. It was
like,
black and white era, so I probably wouldn't have looked at. There's not
yeah.
much to see at that time, So there's a shout out to any black and white lovers out there. Down in the comments, if you love black and white, please say "Old Card Shop, you're wrong," because I always clown on. I'm sorry, I always have to throw a dig at the black and white era. I know there are lovers of it out there.
So yeah, that's like a quick story of my almost re-entry, but I guess black and white wasn't enough to coax me in. Anyways, 3 years later, I moved out of my, because after college I graduated. I went and I lived with my parents for a couple of years, paying off those student loans, saving up that down payment. A
Smart.
couple of years later in 2013, I moved out, and it was probably a several month process to like fully take all the boxes and stuff into my new house. And so at some point in early 2014, I happened to cross my binder again. And I'm like, let me just double check it. Let me make sure everything's there. And I think for whatever reason, I just dug a little deeper this time. XY
Now
was,
we're talking XY era. That's
yep,
a little
XY was
spicier.
like,
Yeah. We're talking at least some full arts and crazy textures and
yeah. So XY was enough somehow to coax me into it. And the rest was history, because I'm just like, for whatever reason, I found out that it was still a thing, and Phantom Forces was the newest set.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, man, I didn't even know they were still making these cards. This is incredible. My first goal was a lofty one. It was literally opening every box that I missed. So I'm like, I'm looking right now. Phantom Forces was set number 62.
So I've heard you talk about this before on other channels. So you've literally not oh I've opened some of them, a couple here and there. I've opened a pack or two, but you've cracked the seal on every single Wizards of the Coast and Nintendo era like EX box, and we'll even go. So does it stop at the black white era then?
No, I
Where
did
did you
all of them.
stop? You did all, even the black white that you said, oh no, I'm not
Yep.
cool off of that. You're like, all right, I want it this time. I want it now 4 years later.
So this disclaimer on some of it, and I've made this disclaimer before, like the really expensive sets, I opened the heavy packs only. I sold the light ones as light to do it semi
Smart. Okay.
economically. Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. You have like, okay, for things like Sky, the things that can be weighed and things that, Sky Ridge, those types of things, you almost have. So thank you for clarifying, because I don't
yep.
think I've actually, you probably have clarified that before, but I wasn't
Yeah.
aware of that. So that's actually really cool to know. But even so, like, to be like the process of buying each one and sourcing it, it's even with like back then, it couldn't have been easy. Like, was that a long process for you, or did you just kind of go on and be like, lickety split, bop, 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 get this, that? Or is it like one at a time and a slow drip for a year or something? Or
It was slow, because I when I got back into it in 2014, I got into it completely as a collector, thinking I didn't think 8 years later I'd be quitting my job to do this full time by any means. I devoted $5,000 to it, and at the time, $5,000 wasn't going to buy every single box by any means. So
it's a significant chunk though at the time. Like $5,000 could get you a few things. I mean, in the hobby in like 2000, you said 14, right?
14. It
Yeah,
could
yeah.
get you a lot more than it would today, but it's still like, I think the most expensive box that I bought was Neo Destiny First Edition, and it was in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. Aquapolis I was getting for like 1,600. A large part of the endeavor was fueled by Fossil and Jungle boxes. So I was buying and ripping Fossil and Jungle boxes for profit. Those things were plus EV at the time.
Yes.
And all that profit was being plowed into boxes that I was losing money on. A
That's
lot
the
of them,
life,
not all
baby.
of them.
That's
Yeah,
the life right there. That's every Pokemon like ripper's dream. Literally, like, oh man, I gotta rip another fossil box to fuel my my hobby. Shoot, I gotta get another fossil dragonite, you know.
Yeah, it was crazy how cheap and accessible those boxes were. I was buying them when they were $400 to $500. Every box in English except for base set first edition, but base set first edition I opened in every language except English. I did Korean, Chinese, German, Dutch, French, Italian. Every time I rattle them off, I know I miss a couple, but Portuguese, I'm pretty sure I hit all of them. At some point down the line, probably sometime this summer, I saved the empty box for each because a lot of the boxes are beautiful. Not so much lately, but like the E series, and I want to do like behind me every empty box. And then because I'm me, I want to do a spreadsheet, date and how much I paid, just to like, it cost me X amount of dollars to open every box in Pokemon history.
Yeah, your spreadsheet videos are freaking legendary. They really are. Like I don't know anyone else in the Pokemon sphere who does it better with the spreadsheets than you. So shout out for that, man. Really, really good job with it. But that's a crazy story, just to be able to say. And so you were all the way into the black and white era. That's what you said, and then to XY, which you were currently at, right, at that time.
Yeah, Phantom Forces was the newest set on the block, and it was pretty crazy because we're in the age right now in 2022 of 2-year-old booster boxes being $200, 3-year-old booster boxes being $500, and so on. And not to get too spicy already.
We are, so we can get spicy because I am going to start a new segment on my channel. I'm going to shout out right now. It's going to be called Pokemon 2 Truths and a Lie. And we're going to just do a short video on our channel, and it's going to be 2 truths and a lie, and it's going to be all controversial takes. It'll be like a 2-minute short, and we're just going to let the comments go. And so after this video drops, that's going to be one of our next like short videos. It's going to be called 2 Truths and a Lie Pokemon Edition. So
I'll have to look forward to that one. That one sounds good. But
you are going to like that one.
Back in 2014, Phantom Forces was the newest set on the block, and you could acquire a lot of the 3-4-year-old sets for $100, $150. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but
Black
even
and
a lot
white.
of the,
It was all black and white era.
I think Dark Explorers was the most expensive box at the time that I bought it. That or Plasma Storm were one of the two, and those were only a few $100. But I picked up a lot of the Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Diamond, and Pearl. Those boxes that are several $1,000s now. I want to say they were only a couple $100, and this was several years after they were printed. All the EX era were anywhere between 500, and I think the most expensive one I got was not because it's the most expensive like now or at any fixed time, but I want to say it was it might have been Unseen Forces, or it was just because it was the latest one that I bought, not because it's the most expensive in general. But
the best set, that's why.
Yeah.
Everyone knew it. Even back then, they knew it. They didn't know it, but they knew it.
I'm pretty sure it was Unseen Forces that was my last one. Or
that's such a good set, Dan. That I don't know, that might be, in my opinion, not to get too opinionated in this because I do want this to be more about it. That is the best set Pokemon's ever made, and I always go back to it. It's one that keeps on, like, as a Johto lover, someone who went in, gold and silver and that kind of era.
Yep, it's a beautiful set, awesome set. It's just a shame the whole Gold Star dog situation that kind of paints it.
Those dogs, like, even though those dogs are great, right? Those aren't the best hits in the set, I don't think. Even without, like, because you got the Lugia, the Umbreon, the Espeon, the T-Tar, the Steelix, literally the Feraligatr, Typhlosion. I mean, the Meganium. The list goes on. The
It is a great set. Yeah.
All of the EXs are just like, oh, gorgeous. And then all those reverses with that Pokeball hologram. God, this is going to turn into an Unseen Forces podcast. Okay, never mind. Okay, back to the task at hand, though. But so after all of that you opened, did you find that you wanted to keep it all? But besides just grading, or the packs that you sold, like the light tip, and then grading some of them and then selling, did you decide that you were going to keep all of it or just some of it? Had you already started your collection, or were you just trying to open? Because you said your goal was to open one of every. And I know you're more of an opening guy. You really like opening things. I've heard it
Yep.
on your channel many times. I think your last video was like $20,000 of gambling, my opening, addiction on. You're very transparent, as with is per with all of your videos. You're very
Yep.
transparent. And so was your intent to ever keep any of it, or were you just simply trying to fuel that fun that you were having with the hobby?
Yeah, so I kind of had, I guess, three goals that I was chasing in tandem, and opening the boxes was the fuel to that. So I wanted to open every box just for the experience. I wanted to pull gold stars. I wanted to pull legends. I wanted to pull level X's, everything. And I did. Not every one of everything, but at least some of everything. But at the same time, I was building binders. I don't have everything complete. I'm not a reverse hollow guy. So I was building just the normal sets, and I wanted to have all the chase cards in PSA 9. So when I graded all the hits from a box, all the 9s I kept, all the 10s I sold to recoup as much money as possible to buy the next box. And another thing I did, I mentioned I was weighing and opening the heavies for a lot of them. I would retain a couple art sets for like a sealed pack collection. And I did at one time complete a sealed pack collection, long since sold it and moved on from it just because I had too many different collections going on all at once. But yeah, at one point I had a complete PSA 9 Gold Star set, complete
Wow.
PSA 9 old school EXs, complete PSA 9 Level X, complete PSA 9 Legend set, Prime set. I moved on from a lot of those in the 2020 boom bubble. But yeah, it was a fun ride putting it all together, and having done all that and then not having a lot of it captured. That's like the genesis of my YouTube channel, kind of for selfish reasons. Like, I can't believe I did all this and experienced all this and don't have like a better catalog of it for myself. And then just figuring that people might be interested in sharing my journey, I guess, too, reliving that, because it is cool it's not something you see every day. Those kind of boxes being broken. And even then, now, definitely not.
Yeah, and I mean it's a really admirable goal. I mean, I remember when I re-entered the hobby, that wasn't even like a thought process of mine. So I don't even think that that's something. Even though hearing that, someone would say, "Wow, that's something I want to do." They would jump to like that's a. But I don't think that's something that you immediately think to do. So that's a really cool thing for you to be able to like go and do that and make it a goal and actually like do the steps, because like you said, it didn't just happen overnight. You had to kind of go through the process, and it was a fun risk for you, but in those days it does sound like there were much more opportunities in some places. That I even feel like, though, that today there probably still are those opportunities. And I think this is really a good segue to talk about something a little bit spicy here, but but speaking of like those days versus today, like today we're in what I would consider to be a somewhat bearish and somewhat unstable economic time period. Not only in just that crazy boom that we just went through in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 in the beginnings of, but now we're sort of seeing what I would call a bit of a crash or a little bit of a stabilization, and not just our hobby, but in a lot of different hobbies. But it leads me to start wondering, and I think it leads to a lot of our more pragmatic viewers to ask themselves if maybe now is actually a good time, or maybe it's a terrible time to maybe jump in and start getting into Pokemon as a business. So a lot of people are really getting out of the hobby right now, but I kind of want to shift and maybe ask a question, a little spicier question here, and maybe ask if you think it's maybe a good time or a bad time to get into the hobby right now. Strictly speaking, if you were a new person, someone who didn't have distribution, didn't have a large collection, maybe just a little collection, so you're still a lover of Pokemon, you have a couple things like your retail collector, say, for example, but maybe you were thinking of making that next step. What would you say to someone? And do you think it's a good idea right now to get in? I'd love to hear your take on that, because I think we can get a little spicy on this topic. And I don't know what we're like 20 minutes in. I think it's a good time to get a little spicy here.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with one thing. I was going to leave the last thing, but it still works with this segue. at the time that I jumped in, my goal of opening every box seemed out of reach. It seemed daunting, but today it's a whole different ball game. I'll like it'll be really interesting when I do go to make the spreadsheet to recap how much I spent, because at the same time, I'm going to do an approximate value of what it would cost to do today. And it's a whole different ballpark.
It would have to be a pack instead of a box of each product. So it would have to be like one pack instead of, if that was your realistic goal.
That would be accessible. Yeah.
And that's
that would,
people could probably still do, I bet.
yeah. Yeah. It would probably cost more overall than I paid for each box.
Yeah. There's some packs. I sold a fire red leaf green pack for $450 yesterday, and I'm pretty sure that there were boxes in those days in 2014. You probably could have bought a vintage for $400.
I definitely got my fire red leaf green for less than 1,000. I don't remember exactly, but I only paid 1,000 for like 1 or 2 EX era boxes.
That was a heavy pack, but it was it was fun, and that's a good set too. Speaking of good sets, that's a really good set. But
that is a solid one. Yeah.
Pokemon business though. I'm curious. What do you think? Do you think today would be a good day to jump in? Like, I know there are people who are going to watch this who have listened to me over the last 2 weeks, just been like, go on and on about the bearishness and how people are getting out and just like doom and gloom this, and they're just sitting there like, maybe now's the time. What would you say to someone who's saying like that?
I think I'd say the same thing I would have said 8 years ago. I think the optimal way to get in would be online only for multiple reasons. It's a lot less of a risk, and there's a lot less, like, the amount of money that I would need to feel comfortable, especially in this ongoing, I mean, the pandemic's still kind of lingering, and the whole, what's the S&P 500 down almost 25% to the year, cryptocurrencies crashing.
It's all red, baby. It's all red.
There's a lot of red. And
Food prices are up, gas prices are up.
Those are up. Yeah. Cost of living is up.
Yeah, so that's not all red. It's not all red. Let's be pragmatic here.
But yeah, I would definitely say, for multiple reasons, main thing, like, lessening your risk would be to just go in with a fixed amount of money, whatever you have comfortable, ready to lose in case it doesn't go well. Start with that. Open your eBay store, get familiar with the platform, open a TCG player store, get familiar with the platform. You might find out you just don't like it. So you don't want to like put 100 grand in, have a 1-year commitment lease, have a ton of inventory, and then 6 months later find out, man, I don't even like selling Pokemon cards. So start small, start on eBay, keep it manageable, submit to PSA, submit to CGC, try everything out, try all these different platforms out, see how it goes. It's, in some ways it's better than 2014, and in some ways it's also better than 2020. And I guess I'll get into a little bit why on each. So in 2014, it was great because the product was there to be bought, but the product was there to be bought because no one was buying it.
Nobody wanted it.
It's like a catch-20. I was buying, anyone who knows Cool Trainer Ryan, I was buying the same products he was, but I was buying them and ripping them, and he was buying them and filling his basement and his garage and sitting on them and doing very well with them. But yeah,
yep.
all those black and white era collection boxes, all those Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Triumphant, and different blister packs, and they were there because no one wanted them. There was a very small margin if you were to buy those from the distributor and put them on eBay. So today, I think the market is just way bigger, and more things sell more often, generally for much higher prices. And even though prices are down a bunch from 2022, I can call my distributor tomorrow and I can get like pallets of product. It's not Evolving Skies. It's not Brilliant Stars. It's not the ones everyone wants, but I can get Battle Styles. I can get Chilling Reign and Fusion Strike as much as I want, to some extent. Like, if someone wanted literal a tractor trailer full of all of them, it might not be that deep, but it's deep enough for a small fish like me. So yeah, it's better than 2020 in that something is available. And I don't know for sure because I've been set up with my distributors for several years now, but I have a suspicion that if they're not taking you now, some distributors will start taking some people this year, I would imagine.
I've been saying that for the last few weeks on my streams, that like my distributor, I have a very close relationship with mine. I have in person. I go and pick up my product. I don't get it shipped to me, so I save a little bit on shipping because I'm only 20 minutes away from my distributor. I can also keep a face-to-face relationship, and I find that I get both a better product and more product by keeping that face-to-face relationship. And so it's in my best interest to stay friendly. And so I oftentimes will talk to him, and he has told me anecdotally that he's had several game stores and accounts not just default, but been dropped from his accounts. He's still not to the point where he's accepting out of this, because I've been like, oh, so are you gonna start like taking on more? He's like, no, he's because his main account is Amazon. And so he doesn't deal in a lot of small accounts. He's like very much so. He has a few. And so but he has said that several of his small accounts have been dropping and or defaulting because of the huge amount of product that was dumped and then, you know, not accepted by the market in the right amount of time. So I know that if that's happening with him, that's probably happening with others. And that being said, there's going to be a moment where these companies that had formerly for the last 2 years been sort of cut off from the public are going to suddenly open up the doors and start accepting a few new accounts. It's like if you're a Rudy Patreon, if you're trying to get into that Rudy Patreon, it was full for the longest time, right? And then suddenly he made one controversial fresh flesh and blood release and sold everyone some, you know, really expensive product that tanked. And there were suddenly spots that opened up on the Patreon. So,
oh, really?
yeah. And so, you know, you just got to wait for a little lack of confidence in the market, and then you got to shoot your shot again. So anyone who's out there is thinking, now that still doesn't answer the question whether or not we think it's a good time per se to jump in. So that just answers the question of like whether you could maybe possibly get access to what we would say is distribution. But that's now only if you've sold a card before and you've done some of these things, because what Dan was alluding to and what he said earlier is something that I talk about on my podcast all the time with Flex and now Retro, is that there's a large portion of this community who has never or will never sell a card, whether it's because of like a lack of like desire to get rid of that card because they're true collectors and they don't, you think if you get rid of the card and you sell it, you become an evil dirty scalper or something like that. But you instantly get your big like flat billed hat and you start flipping seekers and stuff, which does happen. You know, I would be admit the first card I sold, I instantly, you know, started it was immediately downhill from there. But most people in this hobby, I think, don't have TCG player seller accounts, even though it's completely free. And in my opinion, once you get back into the hobby, that was actually one of the things that I first did when I immediately got back into the hobby. Was I set up my TCG player account because it was a way to interact and trade. It's like trading online, because you don't even have to get paid out in money in there. You can actually get a little bit more if you just get TCG player credit. And for the first year or so, what I would do is I would just buy singles on TCG player and then sell singles on TCG player and use that credit to buy those singles, and my hobby would fuel itself. And it's like trading online, you know? And so I recommend anyone out there, if you haven't already, please just go set up a TCG player account, put some cards on there. You can put like 100 cards up there, just list them. It's completely free. You just link your bank account. It is safe. They've been doing it for years and years. I trust TCG player. They are a little archaic with their payout system. You won't get paid out right away. Dan, you know, you don't deal with much in TCG player, so you probably don't deal with this. But TCG player is like the only freaking company who doesn't pay out within like a week. I think it's like a 2-week payout system, which is ridiculous for like this day and age.
It's on par. I think that's quicker than like Golden and Heritage and PWCC at least.
Well, so I think that's once you're set up. But in the first payout, I think it takes longer than a month. So I'm pretty sure when you first get started, I remember when I first set up my account, when I was like, you know, just getting started, I would make a big sale or something. I'd be like, oh, cool, I'm going to use this. It would be weeks. It felt like weeks before I saw that in my account. And it's like, it's digital. I was rolling it into their TCG player stuff. So it's not even like real money. It's like their TCG player money. So it's, you know, if anyone from TCG player is watching, which some of them might be, I'm a small channel, but you know, there are nerds out there who are really engaged in this hobby. please fix your payout system, get into the modern day. And if anyone from BGS is here, you gotta update your freaking website, okay? BGS is another one that's just living in the Stone Ages, okay? So anyway, that's a whole tangent. But still, that being said, once you sold many cards, and you've decided maybe you want to go the distribution route, do you think that then the distribution route is like the easiest and best route to start with? Or like for your Genesis, let's kind of bring it back here to like your talk. When you kind of got back into it, did you immediately after opening those boxes then go to like buy distribution? Or did you kind of like start like thinking about it like, okay, maybe I'm gonna do some slabs first? Because your business, shout out to your eBay, is, from my understanding, mostly run by slabs, right? You sell slabs. I don't think I could ever compete with, so pretty sure that you, Z and G, I don't think Old School really does slabs very much. So he's not necessarily in that competition. But between you two, there's no way that I can be lowest price on eBay. And if I try, we're just going to push the market farther and farther down, and you're going to win that battle. So like your eBay is very, very, like very well run, I would say. And you're a prolific seller on there. So does that lead me to believe that maybe you started with slabs, since that's kind of your comfort zone, it seems like?
I went all in, and it was only with $5,000, but like within the first 6 months of having started, I bought a case of Phantom Forces. Okay. And I bought it was a mixed lot. Like I think my first over $1,000 purchase on eBay, it had a base set first edition Charizard that ended up grading a 5 if I remember correctly. And I think it had a couple cards already graded, and then several other various cards, but I dove in all aspects. I think the most efficient way to operate in the hobby, like even if you're just going to be a collector, a lot of times the best deals are things that are lotted together. So you almost always are going to run into scenarios where I want that one card. I can either buy it now for $500 on eBay, or I can spend $700, get 50 other random cards with it that I can probably sell for $500, so that I have that card for $200. And that was always what I did. Like I've always just been one to buy big lots, break them down, and keep what I wanted. Kind of going back to a little bit, like to the whole distribution thing. One caveat about like if later this year distributors start taking you on, I think some people have a misconception of what exactly distribution is in this day and age. So this morning or yesterday morning, I placed like a 5-figure order with my distributor, several cases each of those 3 sets that I mentioned: Fusion, Battle, and Chilling. I wasn't getting them for $50-$60 a box. I was getting them for high 70s, low 80s. And if you go on eBay and you buy those boxes, they're only $3. They're only $3 more a box.
Yeah, it's not that much less. Yeah, it's to fulfill those distributor allocations and relationships. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I've done 6 figures for the past couple of years, and I have several years of 5 figures and more in total annual purchases from them. So when you start a brand new account, you might go, okay, I want a case of this, a case of that, $86.50 a box. Well, I can get them for $82 on eBay. What do you mean? That's what it is. And there's no like
and yeah, how about those Steam Deck boxes? How about those Steam Deck cases? How about a couple of those? You better take a couple of these Venusaur Steam Deck cases, Dan. You know people want those, right? Those are
for a while. That was actually my bread and butter. And Rusty, Nick and I talked about it in one of our podcasts pretty recently, but Versus Seekers years ago, it was like a staple trainer
cards when they pop out on yes. So absolutely, yes. Playability is one of the memeiest, funniest things. You have to be up. Like if you are gonna do this, like the playable cards, you may think that a $1 trainer or a $2 trainer is like beneath you. It is not beneath you when you're dealing in the hundreds of these things. And then, and they move, they're liquid as well. So Versus Seeker is a classic example of that.
There was a time where one standout one was the Rayquaza Keldeo Battle Arena decks. Mm-hmm. It was like a $20-something deck, and I think you got a full play set of Versus Seekers. at a time that Versus Seekers were $10 a piece.
Oh, I thought they were running $4 or $5 a pop because they fluctuate. But yeah,
They fluctuated. I remember peak selling Versus Seekers for $9.99 a piece, play sets for like 30, 38, 36, something like that. And then there were rough seas that were almost $1 a piece. There were dive balls. There were ultra balls are always cheap, but there was a handful. And then you had the reverse hollow energies, and you had the Rayquaza EX and the Keldeo EX. And I still have like 500 Rayquaza EXs from when I broke all those down. Cause I just like literally taking hundreds of these decks. Rusty commented on the video that he did the same thing. Those are always short-lived because like the market will correct itself. I think Rusty and I probably buy listed and sold so many that we made the price come back down, us along with whoever else was doing it. But yeah, you gotta look out for opportunities like that. And yeah, because distribution's not just like you buy every. In 2020 it was. In 2020 it was take everything you get, you sell it for double the next day. It was crazy, but you'd only be getting allocated what you had earned through the years prior. So
yeah. So for me, my distribution started about a year after I got back into the hobby. I went pretty heavily into it, but I went into like the singles, and I started like you did. I collected a master set of every Wizards of the Coast set up to the e-reader sets. I didn't really have a connection to e-reader at the time. I still don't have a connection to it, besides I love the artwork. Now I have this weird reverse nostalgia. I find that for me, nostalgia is stronger in things that I would have liked to have experienced but never knew about, and then learn about later on in life. So like, yeah, at the time I probably would have liked it. I would have really been, if I gave it a chance, but I wasn't into it. Now looking back on these things, like I didn't know about them then. Now that I know about them, I'm so much more nostalgic for them than like the parts that I was involved with, like base set, fossil, jungle. I could care less about that stuff because I experienced it. I have what I call kind of like reverse nostalgia for those EX era, those sets that I missed out on. It's like missing out made it worse. And I think that's true for a lot of people, probably. That's where that FOMO comes from. You don't want to get that, you don't want to get to where I'm at. You got to catch that. Not financial advice. Don't go buy everything, chat. Unless it's Battle Styles. Unless it's from Mason, Battle Styles ETBs. Help that man out. He's buried. There you go, Mason.
He's got a pallet left.
I got you, buddy. I got you, Mason. I'm always looking out for you, buddy. But anyway, yeah. So for me, it took about a year to get into distribution, and the general progression was this. It was Hidden Fates that got me back into the hobby. So like, my girlfriend and I, we just got back in casually. We saw a Leonhardt video because we were like Pokemon Go players. Our YouTube algorithm would suggest us to like a Pokerev or a Leonhardt video. Watched a couple Hidden Fates openings, saw that Charizard, saw the evolutions, went to the store, got a couple Hidden Fates tins. They were at a Walmart. Pulled the Sylveon, the shiny full art Sylveon. My girlfriend loves that card. It's her favorite thing ever. And like, we were hooked from day one, basically. So then we drive around, we look for more Hidden Fates. It's kind of that hunting, treasure hunting. Then at the same time, we were filling in our old binders and filling in the Hidden Fates binder. Just a really fun, interactive time for the hobby. Not necessarily looking at it like money or anything, just a really good time. So then about a year later, when Hidden Fates became very difficult to find, because it was always kind of hard to find, but it became almost impossible to find once the pandemic really started, and we kind of went into the shutdown. Then Pokemon started doing its sort of thing. Everyone first thought Pokemon was going to be nothing because you can't like bleach a Black Lotus, so cardboard was going to be worth nothing. What's up, Rudy? Rudy's never going to watch this, but if you were paying attention, people thought it was going to do nothing, so it crashed for a hot second, and then it just skyrocketed in the beginning of the pandemic. And so that's when I reached out to distribution, because I stopped being able to find it anywhere. And I always buy things at Costco. I buy in bulk. I tend to try to save when I can by buying in bulk, especially if I like something. And so my mind immediately went to, well, where do I buy Pokemon in bulk? Oh, well, you go to the Pokemon Center and check distribution. So I went on to the website and saw the distribution. There's one within 30 minutes of my house, my location. I called him up, asked him what it took to get in with distribution and start buying in bulk. He said, oh, you need a resale license. You need a business license. I said, all right, set up. And, a month and a half later, I was buying Darkness Ablaze and Hidden Fates. At the time, it was Darkness Ablaze. And so that was when I got into the distribution, was right at Darkness Ablaze, which you could still buy as much as you wanted at that time. That was the last set though. And it
Yeah.
was a very weird time. It was so fortunate for me. And I didn't know at the time, because this is all just happening. I wasn't full-time Pokemon at the time. I was just working. I worked at a winery. I was working my normal job. I was just doing it for fun on the side. And I thought, where can I buy Pokemon in bulk and get a better deal on it, and maybe sell some off, and kind of break even and be able to fuel the hobby at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
that, of course, when the pandemic happened and things shut down, Pokemon, right when I got distribution, just skyrocketed. Distribution stopped for everybody. They shut their doors. And then Champions Path came out. And good Lord, Dan, do you remember when Champions Path came out?
Yep.
Here, can I tell you the highest I sold? I sold a Champions Path ETB for $140 the day it released on Champions Path. And I sold multiples of those. And it was crazy. People were breaking down the door to get them. So like, was it crazy? Like, were you in at that time as well doing the thing?
I was gonna say, I think they're climbing back up there pretty decent. They're still under 100,
I
not
love
by
that
much.
set.
They're
I
like rated 100.
love Champions Path ETBs, not only because of my experience with them, but because of how bearish the market got on them. Because let's say I sold them for 140, and then almost immediately, within a month, they were down to like $50, $60. I'm pretty sure that and this in a moment of bearishness, I sold my last 2 cases of the Champions Path ETBs for about $600 a case. In a moment of bearishness that December, when I was just done, I was like, you know what, Champions Path, most overprinted set in the world. All it is Charizard or bust. All these other sets are so much better. I was thinking it's the worst holiday set of all of them that they came out with. And I literally, in a moment's bearishness, I sold them, and I regret it to this day, because like probably a month later, it was not a $600 case anymore. It rebounded. This is a couple years ago, mind you. So I was green into what I would consider green in the selling game, and it's okay. These are mistakes. I like to kind of talk about this. Looking back on it, of course, hindsight's 2020. But like, these moments of bearishness still exist, I think. And today they existed, last January. It tends to me to be the market gets the most bearish right around Christmas time, right before Christmas time. I feel like that's where I feel like the bearishness really hits. But yeah, that being said, I would probably say that right now, sort of to answer the question though, going back to it, like right now, with the distribution opening up, I do think that if there were people out there who were able to make the safe play, the play, like you said, to be able to open up online and kind of slow drip into distribution, just well aware that it isn't a good time right now. But if you believe in the product, like now everything's on sale. So like a year ago, none of this would have been available or able. And there were people who were screaming like, if X, Y, or Z set was X, Y, or Z price, I would liquidate my retirement and go all in and go bankrupt. Well, those people still have their retirements, and they're just significantly lower, and they're not bankrupt, they're just broke. So it's sort of a different time, but that's sort of the statement, I think, with all collectibles. And I guess it's just fun because as someone who deals in this stuff now, it's for me to like think of it like this whole big brain conversation is like, probably for a lot of people, it's just like, God, it's overblown. But it really is fun to have this conversation for me. And I do think there are some people who get something out of it too, because there are people who watch who are like, who look at what both what I do and what you do with sort of a level of like envy almost. And while it is something that I pinch myself about every day, like I love selling Pokemon cards, there are struggles involved with it. And there are definitely, there are steps to take, right? So that being said, do you think that someone would have some plays like right now, or do you think they're better off being like, nah, just stay on eBay? Like,
I think there's always opportunity out there. It's a very illiquid market. There's always things going substantially under market price at any given time, and there's always some opportunity out there. I'm pretty transparent on my channel. I show most of what I'm doing, and it's not like a huge secret, I think right now, but I think there's a lot more uncertainty over the next 6 to 12 month period, how deep this recession may go, if we get to where they formally call it a recession, which seems like we're headed there. So there's a fair bit of risk. And I guess we should say disclaimer, like, don't just hop into Troll and Toad, don't just hop into eBay and sell a ton and then get that 1099 and have no idea what to do with it.
Especially not now that they're going to be much more strict about it as of this last, tax changing of the $600 or more.
Yeah,
Yes.
once you, like, even years ago, had you done it, if you had sold $500 worth, $1,000 worth, you always owed taxes on any gains.
Always.
But they didn't send the document to the IRS.
Now
this year
care.
They're sending the document to the IRS at $600. No transaction minimum.
Now, eBay doesn't like
flat.
that, mind you, Dan. They don't like that. Did you get that recent email that they sent to everyone saying fight back for that? I thought that was very funny. So, but they are they have to be. So it's very much so. Disclaimer, be aware.
Yeah, definitely.
You will, if you get into selling more than just like a, one card, 2 cards, you're trading, whatever, you're going to have to at least declare it or at least figure it out on your taxes. So for sure. But
talk to an accountant and figure out how you'll have to track all your expenses and all that. Don't just go and do it blindly, end up with a 1099 and then just like ignore it or something. That would be a bad call.
That's not a good thing. That's not a fun thing to just wake up to one day. So that being said, I do really enjoy the spicier topics, but as far as like the hobby is concerned and like doing this as a job, I do kind of want to steer this a little bit back on track to our interview, because this is a good segue. You do this full time, correct? As far as like, I think now since we've talked about it, it's pretty apparent you do this full time, but when did you actually go full time with Pokemon? And I guess that being said, how much of your daily life does it consume? Because I know how much it consumes in my life, but I want to know about yours. So like, when did you make that jump?
Yeah, so even when I had a full-time job, I was a chemical engineer from 2014 to 2021. In July of 2021, I quit my job to do this full-time. It had been in the works. So I started my channel in March of 2021. Having a pretty good idea that I was going to be quitting my job later that year. It wasn't 100% concrete, but even in spite of all the prices that fell in that interim, I had an amazing 2020. I had an amazing 2021. Even with the prices down a ton, 2022 is looking really good. But so when I was part-time, it felt like I had 2 full-time jobs. I was a chemical engineer for 40 or 50 hours a week, and I did Pokemon for 40 or 50 hours a week on top of it. And then I had a couple kids.
It's exhausting, man. You are a saint for that.
So it came when push came to shove. I'm like, I gotta either substantially downsize eBay or make it my full-time job. And I went with the full-time job route. So now I try to, like, a big part of me doing this full-time was the freedom aspect of it. My wife's a teacher, and she takes a lot of work home. She's really passionate and serious about her job. She works a lot of weeknights. So I work from like 8 to 4:30, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, same times that she teaches. I intend to work a little less over the summer because she has this whole summer off. I plan to do trips with the family, things like that. So my base is 40 hours a week, but then we're recording this at 10 o'clock tonight. This is work too. I mean, this is work. Mm-hmm. But work is fun. Work can be fun. So yeah, on top of my base 40 hours a week, I probably do an extra 20 or so hours a week in the evenings when she's doing work, or periodically like the monthly Zoom sessions that go one Sunday a week or one Sunday a month. So yeah, it's probably 60-ish hours a week as of right now. And that's what I'm actively working. But when Pokemon's on my mind, like, my kids are getting into it a little bit. They've got the Build-A-Bear stuffed animals. They've got Pokemon cards. My son is coming up to me lately and he's like, who's going to win in a battle? Oh. Which one of these two? And I taught him recently about the weakness.
Oh no, that's adorable.
So the past couple of days, he comes up to me and he's like, just earlier today, like, it's a couple hours after bedtime now, but Pokemon was on the TV. And he's like, Blastoise will beat Charmander because Charmander has the weakness against water. And
our kid.
Yeah, so he's getting into it, and my daughter's quite a bit younger, but she still has her little Pikachu that she hugs and walks around the house with. So it's on my mind a real lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as someone who does this full time as well, like I find that I work now more than I ever did when I was like just full time with my day job and then doing this part time. Like if I were to combine both of those of what I did back then, I still think I do more now. And it's out of love, I think, because like you said, it's tough when you love what you do, right? Because like it's something I enjoy. Like right before this, I streamed. I was not intending to stream today. I streamed for 2 hours right before this just because I wanted to stream. Like
Yeah.
because I felt like it's fun. So I totally get it. So yeah. But that's really cool, man. I mean, I'm glad to hear that, it's doing well and that your kids are starting to like it. I know that I have a worry that if I ever have, when I have kids, I should say, not if, I should say when I have kids and I want them to get into Pokemon, I feel like if I were to like lead them into wanting it, it might be like a parent who wants their kid to like something really bad, then it becomes not cool to like that thing. So
Yeah.
like I would almost worry that I would like be able to, so like I always thought about this with anything, not just Pokemon, but it's like, man, is it like better? Do you kind of gotta let the kids find it themselves, or you kind of want to give them little hints and like lead them into it? Like, there's probably a balance, I'm sure. And these are things I'm sure all parents think about. This is like me, not as a parent, just like, thinking about it. But that would be
Yeah.
my worry with Pokemon. PK talks about it a lot on his streams.
My strategy has been, I remember, I think he was talking with ZNG one time, and he made a joke about like, this is Pikachu and you're gonna love him, or you're gonna like it, or something like
You'll
that.
sleep outside or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he made some joke. It was pretty funny. But my my strategy has been to throw the show on occasionally, introduce him to the characters. He's got a bunch of plushes. He has a million stuffies anyways. He's got a lot of like Beanie Babies. My mom keeps giving him every time he goes over. He gets one of like the Beanie Babies from when I was younger that came out of our Happy Meals. Yeah. So, tons of Beanie Babies.
There are Beanie Baby cards?
I didn't know that. No.
They're really cool. They're really cool, dude.
Huh. That's interesting. Pinchers. I remember pinchers.
But look, it's textured.
Oh, wow.
It's better quality
cool.
than anything Pokemon has ever made. Ever. Seriously. Look, you can see hair on the rooster.
Does PSA grade them?
I don't know, but if they do, they're going to the moon.
Stonks. There we go.
I'll see you on the top of the stratosphere. I'll be sipping champagne with my top hat and monocle. We'll be together, baby. It'll be see you at the top.
But yeah, my preference would be like Netflix. Netflix has a lot of the Pokemon shows on it, and my preference would be just Pokemon to be on all the time, but I'm not forcing it. Like I show them, hey, if you want Pokemon on, here's how you get it on the TV, put it there. But he plays like Gabby's Dollhouse and just a bunch
thing? Gabby's Dollhouse, or
it's a pretty big one. I forget
wow.
which.
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah,
I thought it was like Paw Patrol or something still. Like what's the
Paw Patrol's a big one.
Okay, yeah.
There was actually, it kind of hurt my soul, but for a while he was into this Pokemon ripoff. It's called Stone Age Legendary Pet. Basically just
that one.
Like a train. Probably no one has, but it was on Netflix for a while. Straight Pokemon ripoff. Like it was a trainer who would just collect these pets, they call them, instead of Pokemon. And one of them was like Beach Toys was his name. And then there was a Sandizard.
Oh no. It's like literally the same, like just literally.
Yeah, like it was a complete ripoff. And he loved it. So I'm like, it hurt me a little bit, but I'm like, let's run with it.
Can't we just watch the real thing? We gotta watch the Wish version here. Like, oh man.
Occasionally he'll go back to it. It left Netflix, but like he'd ask for it. I'd
Oh,
pull it up on
what are you talking about?
YouTube.
I don't remember that show. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
like
what you're talking about, buddy. Do you mean
I,
Pokemon?
yeah, I'm not trying to like completely smother him with Pokemon, but I'm trying to steer him back towards the light, away from the
Right.
darkness.
Yeah, that's some dark days. I mean, he's better off
Yeah,
even watching Yu-Gi-Oh than that one, and I say that
yeah,
I don't say that lightly, you know.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah, I mean, he's clearly going to be around it because it's what I do, and but I'm not gonna force it. Like I played a ton of sports when I was growing up, and
yeah.
I'm gonna take the same strategy with that. I'm gonna throw a ball around with him when he wants to, shoot some hoops with him, but I'm not gonna like make him join the teams and stuff if he doesn't want to. I'll just see where it goes.
Yeah,
And then my daughter, the same thing.
there's an argument around the hobby that the Pokemon collecting hobby is just a bunch of 32-year-olds who basically are all just buying from each other, collecting back and forth. Now, except for Ava. Now, Ava doesn't count here. Ava, I already know everyone in the comments say, "Oh, what about Ava? She's 20 something. She's young." But yes, amazing to see that. But she's in this case, I would say the exception. But do you think there are a lot of kids who are like as attached to it as like the 32-year-olds in the hobby, and like, and is it something that like we will hold on to, you think? And we're like propping up the hobby because like I think if someone were to make the argument that like, yeah, kids like Pokemon, but nobody likes it quite as much as like the 30-year-olds who are enjoying the hobby. And like the argument has always been with modern and with like, you know, investing in the future of Pokemon is like, if the IP grows, then the kids, the next generation is going to get into it. It's like a generational thing. And then I've talked about this before. I'll go over to friends' houses. They know I'm the Pokemon guy. I'll bring over like a Pokemon box and the kids will open the cards. And it's like, I think of it as like me investing in my future when I see this like genuine joy. And I'm not even, they'll pull it like a Charizard, whatever. It doesn't matter. They'll bend that thing in half. That joy is there. And that's investing in the future to me. But like, do you think it may be a little bit, I don't know, like not in a real good confidence? Like, should people not be as confident in that as like maybe they are? Because like there is an argument I think to be made that like the people in the hobby who are really enjoying it are those people who were around in 1998 and who had the genesis that you, me, and literally everyone who watched this video, I would probably say with pretty blanket confidence that my audience is between 25 and 32 years old males, and I would guess it's on the higher range of that. And I would guess that almost every single one, 90%, not everyone, 1 in 10 will probably not have the genesis, but you and I had the same genesis story, and I think that most people in the hobby did. So like that kind of leads me to think that maybe like the whole generational argument might not be as strong of an argument as maybe people want to think it is, just looking at that, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like my wife's a teacher, and every year for the past few years, she's bounced around grades a little bit, but mostly elementary school, like late elementary school, so third to fifth grade, sixth grade. Every year she's had a couple fans of Pokemon.
Mhm.
She always does like a prize bucket type thing for various things throughout the year. And I always feed some like McDonald's packs or the General
Yes.
Mills packs. And
Investing in the future, baby. You're doing your
yeah,
part. Thank you, Dan. Yes.
and she'll have candy and different things in there, pencils but like Pokemon is always something that I make sure is in that prize bucket as well.
I
And
give it out on Halloween. That's what I do on my house. I give away packs on Halloween.
see, I live in the woods, so we don't get trick-or-treaters. We have to
Yeah.
drive like half an hour to a
Yeah.
neighborhood to walk around to
Or we city folk, we get trick-or-treaters. And so,
yeah.
you know, I can give out Pokemon cards to the kids. We get kids around here.
Yeah, trick-or-treaters would have a pretty bad payout on their investment of like walking down the road because they'd hit in every mile stretch, they'd hit like 8 houses if they were lucky.
Yeah, kids optimize it these days. They
Yeah.
like go online, they get how many addresses per square mile, and they only
Yep.
go to capita, you know, when it's got to be at least 69 addresses per mile in square mile before a kid will even look at it. So
Yeah, and you want a solid income percentile, so you go for those full
candy
bars.
bars. Yeah, the rich,
Yeah.
you want the rich or the Pokemon packs. You want to go for the houses to get Pokemon packs. So
Yep. Yeah, but it's a really interesting dynamic because 23 years ago when it came out, I was a kid who loved it, and my parents like didn't care.
Mhm. My
So
dad hated it
now
actually. I'm pretty sure.
my parents my parents didn't have any like crazy thing towards it. I think to some extent they felt like it was a waste. Like I only want Pokemon cards for Christmas, and they're like, we could get you a new bike, or we could get you a new basketball hoop, or we
That
could get you like something that you could actually use, and these are just cards that you're gonna throw away. And now I prove them wrong because I'm doing this as a full-time job, right?
look, mom and dad, look. My
but
dad
yeah,
might watch this, and if so, check it out, buddy.
it's an interesting dynamic because 23 years ago I cared, they didn't. They dealt with it, but now it's like I care a ton. If my son really starts caring a ton, like how carried away am I going to get with it? I'm going to be getting him so much stuff. I have access to so much stuff. So I really don't know. I really don't know how that'll all break down. And one thing I can say though, like I'm fairly confident
Fortnite,
that a large
right?
part.
Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite.
Fairly nothing else but Fortnite. That is what. No, sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm fairly confident, like at least like volume of packs broken is got to be mostly our demographic, like our age range, because years ago it was parents begrudgingly buying a few packs here and there. A lot of people talk about it. Like back in the day, I'd open a few packs at a time if I was lucky. Now we open by the box, if not the case. And yeah, so I think we're really still the ones carrying it. 20 years from now, will it hit the same with the kids, or will we be like, I mean, to get a little bit grim, like 40 years from now when we're like literally dying off, are the next generations going to actually pick it up? Because interestingly, I've had it in my background from time to time. I'm actually in a hobby where the core demographic of the people collecting it are literally dying off. Like the
What hobby
average
is that? I know what hobby that is, but shout out for those who are just listening. What are you holding up there, Dan?
Yeah, so this is like a chalkware statue. I don't know what you'd call it exactly. It's from the 1940s. So I used to, I still actively collect it, but not too much. Breweriana, it's called, like from breweries.
So like
I don't have
specific,
Steins handy, but
okay,
like
so different
beer
memorabilia
trays,
and stuff from like
yeah,
cool old brew houses and things.
like any kind of memorabilia from a brewery, coasters, trays, beer steins, neon signs,
We gotta
old
get you out to
advertising
California,
things.
buddy. We gotta get you out
Yeah.
to California here. Just on another note.
But this was huge. The original Steins came out in 1959, and they were big through the 70s, through the 80s, 90s. They're still making them now. So there's like a modern and a vintage Stein market
Man,
dynamic going on.
now that one and the wooden mallards. I don't know
Yeah.
which is more eclectic, but dang, that's a
But
deep cut.
it's kind of like I with the pandemic, I haven't been to a meeting in a couple years now. At some
They
point
have
soon.
meetings, Dan.
Yep. Yeah,
There
yeah, like
are
the Utica Club collectors. We have like a club, a Utica club, and we'd meet every month at the brewery, and we'd have beers, trade, buy,
that's so
sell, steins.
cool.
Yeah,
That's actually way less lame than I thought it was because
yeah.
you get to meet at a brewery. Like I was thinking, okay, that's a lot less lame than I thought. That's cool, Dan. That's actually really cool.
But it's funny. It's funny because like I'm 32. I was the youngest in that group by like almost half for so long. There's like one or two other people that are children of some of the people in the club, but it's like 30 or 40 people, and the average age is like 65. And I'm there like pulling the average down by a year or two
You're giving those
because
guys hope. You are Ava to them. You are the
yeah,
Ava of that club, Dan. Just
to get the age range appropriate, I'd be like a newborn to them.
but
but
just by proportion that you're the whenever they're talking about the hobby, if they're ever having these detailed long, on their podcasts, they're sitting there saying, though, that Dan guy, he's a baby. He is going to give this hobby at least 30 to 40 more years of lifespan. And they're using you as the crux of their argument.
But it's sad because, I mean, literally the hobby is dying, literally speaking.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
that is a grim, I mean, it's something to think about with collectibles. And like, And I think we as TCG people, like I've been dealing in this stuff since I was 8 years old, as we've established, and you've been dealing in it since you were 8 years old, because we're same age basically. So
Yeah.
like, it's one of the things that I think lives very at home with us. It's like, oh yeah, and we were used to sports cards, like our dads and our parents collected sports cards, and like, but like kids today, like, I mean, it's so funny. Like whenever people our age talk about kids today, it's almost like whenever they say kids today, almost anything that comes out of the mouth afterwards is just BS. But I feel like kids today may not care about these pieces of cardboard like we do, because unless we literally like push that on, just like our dads and our parents did to us, like that materialism need for like things. And like, so like I see in your background there some coins. It's like coins, right? Coins have been around.
Yep.
I mean, they're in a much more established market though. Like coins have been around forever. And like I think a lot of coin collectors, I know a lot of coin collectors, they're very passionate and they're very, very
Mm.
knowledgeable about that stuff, because it's such an established hobby with like both historical and like actual, like it's precious metal. So some of it, if it came down to it, you can melt it down and use it for something. Whereas like, what are you going to do with cardboard besides play with it? And that's where I would argue it does have usability because you play with it, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, like
Yeah.
those types of things are like so established. But like with cardboard, like what's holding cardboard there? And like for me, I look at something like the NFT market, and I look at it like trading cards are NFTs. Essentially, trading cards are NFTs on cardboard. I mean, an NFT is just art. Like I've always go back to this. Like a lot of people like to give NFTs a hard time, and there's a lot of things that NFTs are, and I'm not an expert by any means, but to me, on a very rudimentary term, NFT is just digital art. It's art on a digital format that's attempting to be uh like maintained as some sort of proprietary thing. So like you give it a serial number, you give it some sort of rarity, you give a digital item something that it didn't have before, which is like scarcity. Because traditionally we think of digital items as not being scarce, as being you just copy and paste, replicable. So like to me, art is something that is not replicable. And to me, the first art is just like cave drawings. Cave drawings is like the first NFTs essentially. But like moving farther along, I think that the closest thing that we have to NFTs are trading cards, because like they are an avatar item that has no real value except for the value that is assigned to it arbitrarily by the scarcity and the usability combined with that piece of cardboard. And at any point it could come crumbling down if the infrastructure, i.e. Pokemon, ever sort of crashed. So like to
Mhm.
me, trading cards are very much so like the most close marketplace to like what an NFT is. And so like I see the future of trading cards as maybe tied to NFTs. And so like while I don't have any position of NFTs, I think you've got a little more position than I do in NFTs. I am getting more and more bullish on the day of NFTs the more that I think about TCGs. Because like I don't know about you, but I do know. I know you're mostly a collector, but like I don't know if you watched our talk with Echo Base, but like I'm a player. I'm a player at heart. Like that's what's so funny is like I oftentimes I feel like I get branded as like an evil scalper, seller, like whatever. I'm a player at heart. Like I started off only viewing these things as game pieces. So like to me, the game as a whole, it does gain its strength through that usability, and that is what it is at its heart. So like I see the NFT, the version of cards moving to NFTs, like with their client, like you think it like cool skins, like Fortnite. In Fortnite, people pay big money to have their own skin to play with. It's not because they want to have it in the future and they think it's gonna be worth a bunch of money. It's like they simply play the game and they want their skin to be recognizable when they play, so someone doesn't have to see their name. They see the skin. It's like, oh, that's so and so, that's Ninja, or that's PewDiePie, or whoever this famous person is, and like that's them. So like with a trading card game, if it was a good enough game, you would think if it continued along, i.e. Magic the Gathering, i.e. Pokemon, these games that have been around, i.e. I hate to say it, Yu-Gi-Oh! I hate to say these games that have established track records. Like, I think players and people in the future would really like to have these cool, unique skins for their online game that they can play if it ever did explode. Now that is of course a big if. Like nobody plays Pokemon. I know what everyone's gonna say in the chat. Like less than 10% of the people who interact with the hobby actually play Pokemon. I don't know if that's a real number or not, but it certainly feels that way. But for Magic the Gathering, which is something I have far more experience in, that is not the case. Like I know you're a collector of Magic the Gathering. You are the minority. You and our friend Jake are a minority in the Magic the Gathering sphere. Almost, I would hate to say, but you'd probably be laughed out of the room in a room of Magic players because collecting Magic the Gathering in slabs is foolish because it is a playable game. No offense to anyone who does collect it. Like I know some that the watchers do, and I'm not trying to say anyone's foolish. Like I want some Magic the Gathering slabs because I do see the collectability of those old, like, you know, the historic sets like Legends and Alpha and Beta and even Unlimited and even Revised in some regards in really good condition. It's all like base set. Revised is like base set in that I don't want it in a slab unless it's literally a 10. If it's a 9 or below, you don't want nothing to do with it. But if it's a 10, maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Or for Beckett, it's a gold label you're looking at. But that's a whole nother thing. But like for me, NFTs and like trading card games, I think are so intertied together. And that's why, I guess, in the most long form way of a rant that I can give it, I guess that's why. And I mean, I know, do you like NFTs more so than just like a quick flip? Because you're much more invested in them than I am, as far as I know. Like, you've got a couple, right?
Yeah. So overall, I think you're going to ruffle some feathers talking about cards being analogous to NFTs, but I agree with you. And one of the big similarities between the two, at the end of the day, there's no intrinsic value in a card. You like, I bought this for some given price. I bought it in a sealed pack, opened the pack, and then graded it. But at the end of the day, whoever buys this for me, the only way they're going to make money, because it's a non-productive asset, is to sell it to someone more down the line. Same thing as NFTs. The only way you're going to make money is to sell it for someone more down the line. My only foray into the NFT space is through MetaZoo. And the sole reason that I went for their NFTs is because of their direct real world utility. So every NFT that you own, it's actually like ongoing right now. I think they've been printed. Next week, they're going to be distributed, or they're going to start to be distributed.
That's so cool to me. Like that
Yes.
aspect is really, really cool about the MetaZoo NFT. The fact that it's going to be tied to a real thing and have some, that's really neat.
And there's like ongoing, like I bought these back in January. I think they released back in December, January timeframe. Ongoing benefits, like I don't have access to distribution for MetaZoo because you need to have a brick and mortar store and host events. But with the NFTs, I have access to get some product early. I have access to get some product below retail, not as low as distribution, but below retail. And then there's some exclusive products. So like there's a few different NFTs that are like 1 of 100. They only made 100 gold Mothman tokens, and they only made 100 purple Jersey Devil tokens. And each one of those in the coming weeks, I'm going to get a promo to like a real world 1 of 100 Mothman promo.
That's super cool. I hope
that kind of links to my, I'm really interested to see what the value of those are. I mean, the sole reason I bought the NFTs were to get these cards and to get these ongoing like dividends. That's one big negative to cards. It's one big negative to NFTs. But like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, I think was the first NFT to really like give you exclusive access to events, give you exclusive access to these different things. And that's kind of the theory behind the MetaZoo ones, is ongoing utility and ongoing like rewarding the owners of the NFTs. So that's the reason I went for it. And it's been an interesting first few months. And I had the opportunity to sell it for a pretty healthy gain, given recent what's going on.
And you decided not to at that?
I decided not to. Yeah, I decided, in hindsight, obviously, I wish I would have bought 2 of every one when I bought 1 of every one, so that I could have sold half for a big gain and then still got my cards. But I originally bought them for the cards. So when the prices started going up, when they doubled, when they tripled, I'm like, I'm going to hold it through those cards. I want to get those, and then I'll go from there. my thinking now, I think I'm just gonna hold the NFTs. It's hard to say forever, but for quite a while,
baby.
for quite a while, and just see where they go. It's an interesting ride. The NFT space is pretty.
That's where I'm at with these ones.
Yeah,
I think I'm at a hold for my case of these.
I've got 22 of the NFT stickered booster boxes, and then I've got like 30 something of the regular booster boxes. I've got quite a bit of wilderness. It was a fun set.
Yeah, I have 12 of those, so that's where I'm at with it. I'm probably gonna sit on all 12, I'd imagine. I really like the idea, speaking of NFTs, with the golden ticket. I think I don't know if they're going to keep doing that in other sets, but I really liked that with Wilderness, and even without any other, like, I don't have a connection to MetaZoo per se. Like, it's a cool TCG in that, like, I've opened it a little bit. I like dragons. Like, the artwork is like, it's kind of okay sometimes. Other times it's maybe not for me. But yeah, oh yeah, there's a Bigfoot.
There's my guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your favorite. I like the dragons though. I do enjoy that about Wilderness because
The
I've always
dragons are
liked
cool.
dragons. I always in Pokemon wanted to be like a dragon trainer. So like to me, like that is a cool aspect about Wilderness too. And like it intrigues me. So I think Mike went out and said that he was going to, for the bronze tickets, they get a Kickstarter box, right? Have they announced what the other golden tickets win? Because I think it was like something like a Kickstarter box for one of the tickets. I think it was bronze.
I forget exactly. I thought the Kickstarter box was the gold, but I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe it is, but so I'm not sure either. But I did hear the other day that they announced there's going to be a prize for the golden tickets. So there's speculation.
Yep.
And so like I wonder if that means that they're like gonna trade, you have to trade in your golden ticket for it, or if you get the golden ticket, he's just like, oh no, you can keep that. Here's your box. Like,
As far as I understood, and I could be wrong, I think you had to physically redeem it. So there
okay.
will be an interesting choice for people to make. Like, is the card going to be worth more unredeemed, or is exchanging the card for the box? It makes an interesting dynamic there.
So you're not at the point where you're gonna go rip. I know you're a gambler. You're not at the point where you're ripping through 20 boxes looking for that $10,000 box, are you?
No, I'm opening 2 boxes of every set. I'm trying to behave and not do any more than that. I did go on a bit of a red ink chase.
Okay.
Not crazy, but I broke down a lot of boxes to packs, and then I just sold the packs loose.
I didn't like the box topper thing. Like I'm a much bigger fan of the chase being inside the packs than the box
Yeah.
topper thing. It just felt like you get the box topper and you throw away the rest of the box. Just like that is all that anyone cared about. And I'm a ripper. I ripped it on Whatnot, and that's literally what it felt like. Like I would have to rip the whole box, and I would have to be. People just ask, "Oh, can I just buy the box topper?" I'd be like, "No, this is the last one. Like this goes to the highest bidder." And so that's how
Yeah.
the highest bidder would get the box topper, and that would be like the encouragement. But that's the only thing people wanted. They would literally only bid to get the box topper. Pretty
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
And so that's what I like about Wilderness better. And what I think MetaZoo realize that. And I hope that that's a trend that they follow, because it does devalue your own product when it feels like, you know, people only want that one little like flimsy one card pack. And then like the whole rest of the meat, the chunk of it's like, this is just whatever. It's just extra. So I
Yeah.
always am a fan of products that include the chase in all of their packs. I never liked the whole like sports card mosaic thing where like the hobby box that you get at the retail store has like the cool prism card, but then like the big booster box that you would buy, it doesn't have it. I never really liked that whole like, and I get that that's a thing. I get that that's like a strategy to try to get the chase and like make the rarity. But like, it's always been my thought that like artificial scarcity and like and pumping that scarcity and like that type of stuff isn't as sustainable as like organic rarity or organic like growth of those types of things, where like yeah, you printed a shit ton of the product, but like a shit ton of people wanted it, and like there's just not enough of it even with all that demand. I would much rather have that than like, yeah, there's not as many people who want it, but there's like a really really cool chase that like a few people really want, and you're counting on that staying really rare. Like I don't know. I always for me, I for some reason I would rather kind of have, and like on my podcast with, you know, Cardboard Hands, I'm in a room with two people who are like strictly scarcity driven. They want that like Flex and Nick, Retrospects. By the way, I'm gonna link Retrospects new YouTube channel down in here too. Go follow Retrospects, my other podcast member. But they love their artificial scarcity. I, on the other hand, a numbered card does nothing for me. It says one of whatever, unless it's number 69 of 420. I could care less about it. And then that's just for the memes. But then again, I'm a PSA 1 collector. Everyone knows this about me. I'm I'm probably not the guy who like you want to talk to about your trophies. Not that like I'm not gonna say, hey, that's cool, but like I'm gonna say, cool story, bro. Like,
Yeah.
how's the art? But that's always been where I've thought. So how do you feel about artificial scarcity though? Because you might be on the other side of it. Like I said, I'm on a podcast where I'm constantly berated, like, you're a fool. The market has spoken. They like artificial scarcity, but
Yeah, I think it's intriguing. Like, I've never been one to be too much of a variant collector. So far, my experience with MetaZoo is like, I want every Bigfoot. So tops, they did have the numbered out of 99, I think, for the first appearance or first sighting, they called it. I did go to the secondary market and buy a first sighting Bigfoot.
so you have a numbered card then, and you also have trophy cards. You have the Pikachu trophies, right?
And I'll be getting the numbered promos that come from the NFTs
right.
as well. The samples aren't numbered, but I guess if something's going to be limited, I would rather it be numbered. One thing I like about the numbering is no extra copies. So like even my trophies are theoretically 1 of 6, right? But there's the whole PKO no, not with English trophies, but almost surely there's extra copies out there somewhere of some of these. So it would be cool if those numbers, or if those were numbered like 1 out of 6, 2 out of 6, 3 out of 6, 4 out of 6. In some ways, it wouldn't be great for the winners because then you lose your anonymity when you're on the stage and you get pictured. Okay, Dan won number 3. If number 3 ends up on the market, we know Dan just sold his trophy.
And we know he doesn't really care about Pokemon because he's a dirty seller flipper. Yes.
Yeah. That's so in some ways, like, you lose anonymity, but you also lose the ability to have like extra copies floating around because, and I don't think it's the case, but I think I've got one. Maybe I put it away. But like I have a few sample MetaZoo cards. Black border, 1 out of 100, theoretically. Were there extra copies though? There's no way of knowing because my Bigfoot is 1 Bigfoot. Are there 200 more? Like there's no numbers to them. There's no way. If there were 22 out of 100s, then it's like, okay, something fishy went on here.
And where are the Kickstarter boxes going to come from that Mike is going to give out for the golden tickets? Is he going to print those up, or are those that he's had in his closet? And how many are in his closet, right? So yeah, I get it. Yeah,
like having
anonymity that goes along with not having numbers.
Yeah, I guess if something's going to be like uber rare, I would almost rather have a number on it just for like transparency's sake. Like Kickstarter boxes, there were 2,500 printed. Were there actually 2,500 printed though? Did they print 3,000 in case there were shipping damages? Did they print more in case there were errors or issues? Or like I know, going back to the Stein thing, they just released the most recent Stein. I think they made 800 of them, but then I kind of know, and it's been a couple of years since I've been deeper into that, but a couple of years ago, with all the limited ones they'd make like 1,000. They'd order like 1,000 of them for a run of 800 because some amount would break in shipping.
Yeah,
and they do the numbering. They did start numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then they'd have like 100 extra that didn't get broken, and they'd put them into the market. And it was just this weird thing where someone could put the number onto it if they wanted to, and then it would be a duplicate number, or it would just be a weird unnumbered, kind of a weird situation.
It's like the snap cards. For the longest time, people didn't know how many there were. Then they thought there were 6, and then they thought there was like 15. Then it was 20. And it's like, what happens when the 21st one comes out? And in like those situations, a lot of people would probably look at like the grading or population report to kind of tell that story. But even so, because people are so bad about, and I have labels that need to be probably sent. Yeah, I know you do, but like there are labels in the world that need to be sent in that will never get sent in. So the pop report is not going to be accurate. And who knows if they do anything with those labels when you actually do send them in. Like, I don't know, knowing PSA, it probably goes into a stack of things and just gets forgotten about for 2 years. So yeah, I mean, it is one of those things that having numbers, I do agree with you. It does help for transparency. I
And
just,
like
it feels artificial in some regards though, and it feels like it's a try hard way of like pumping scarcity, I guess. And I guess you can still have, I guess to me, I still look at it as a way you can still have that in the form of like, and I don't think alternate arts are like rare per se, but like compared to the amount of product that there is, like any given alternate art, like of the VMAX alternate art, Moonbryon, that's the one everyone likes to talk about right now. So let's talk about that one. They're pretty
yeah.
scarce. Like not compared to like, Trophy Pikachu where there's one of six, but compared to like, the full art version, not the alternate art version of that same card, like it's pretty scarce. And I know that because I'm a dirty pack ripper and I open packs looking for people for that. And the hunt goes sometimes a case, sometimes a whole case just to look for one alternate art. Like
Yeah.
it, specifically in the take of Fusion Strike. Fusion Strike was common. It was one alternate art per case in my experience. Like I didn't get any of those error cases where you got like a million. I'm not close. Maybe you did because you're in New York.
I didn't even rip packs. The only exception to that in the past like year or two, celebrations. I opened a couple hundred packs for myself, but yeah, I haven't even been ripping the newest sets very much at all.
So is your strategy typically to sell on release and then buy on the second and third restock to sort of restock your because that's my strategy. And that's
Yep.
that's what I've always been saying. Like, yo, for example, I've sold all of my Evolving Skies up except for like I have a few random boosters that like and like some sealed product that has Evolving Skies in it, like build and
Yep.
battle cases and those types of things. But like booster boxes, I just sold my last one. And like I'm planning to continue selling until the reprint comes. And I'm not going to sell a single booster of my reprint because I've sold up until then literally all of it. So like that's kind of been my strategy with these types of things. And like, I mean, I think it's kind of cool because now with Astral Radiance, I'm sure you got from your distribution your numbers by now. It's going to be a one and done print run, just like the Darkness Ablaze of years past, where before they started the whole wave system, we're getting it all at once. I mean, except for there are a couple products come out like a week or two after, like the auxiliary products and things, but like it does seem like it's just going to be a huge dump of product all at once, and then they're going to move on to the next thing. And to be honest, I'm very okay with that. I'm like so okay with that because it's not only good for the market in a time like now where the market's really uncertain and people don't want they're gonna want to FOMO into a set even though they probably shouldn't. Having all the product there all at once, I think I hope it doesn't sell out on day one. Like if it sells out just like the last few if people treat this like the other sets, it's either going to crash so hard people are gonna in 30 days literally put a timer on it. 30 days will go by and the market will crash like clockwork if that happens, if people go hard like that. But honestly, I hope it stays in stock and I hope that I can order a few cases of it and then go back and order a few more and the market just sort of accepts it and it doesn't tank to like that $100 booster box, but maybe stays at like 110 to 115. Like if it can sit in that sweet spot and people can kind of eat it up like they want to, the market doesn't get it at a feverish rate that people are just crazy and just opening. But like if they are reasonable about it, I think it could be okay. But if they're not reasonable about it, if they eat it up, if it's all eaten up on day one, that's a stinker. I am really worried about the product, or not just the product. I'm worried about the market if that's the case. But I don't know. Do you think maybe I'm being a little too bearish on that? Because maybe I am. I'm just an endless bear these days, it feels like.
Yeah, I don't really know what to expect. It's hard to say. I have no idea. It's just this weird dynamic where it's either a great set that doubles within the first 6 months, or it's a crap set that you can buy it on eBay for cheaper than a distributor. will sell it. So it's this one of these two extremes, and neither of them is optimal. I mean, ideally, a booster box, like you said, would sit in the 110, 120 range, so people could make a little bit of margin on it, buying it wholesale. But yeah, it's like it's all or nothing. It
Not gonna
stonks
get there. Yeah.
immediately to 180, or it's just dead $85 on eBay shipped to your door.
Yeah, so like I'm at the point where I'm like thinking like, okay, now I know I'm going to get a large allocation. Like I never do pre-orders. Like I've never done pre-orders before because pre-orders are such a mess. Like I mean, half the time if people do pre-orders, unless you're getting it from a really really good place, if the set tanks and the orders are less than it is on release, you get a bunch of people canceling those orders on you. So like, I don't want that booster box anymore. Cancel that. Don't ship it because, and then they go buy it cheaper somewhere else on eBay. So then you're screwed and you set aside product and you didn't sell it. But then if the price goes way up, you feel bad because then you're kind of obligated to sell a $180 booster box at $130 for the pre-release price that you sort of established, when you know damn right that if it went the other way, those people would have in a heartbeat canceled on you.
Yeah.
But as a store, you're required. So like I just find it to be a little bit difficult to like want to do pre-orders, and especially because I don't put myself on over leverage and I try to buy within my means, and like I'm never on a 30-day time limit to like get rid of my product. So like my strategy is always typically sell the first week I get my product like on release while it's still hot, and then I literally take anything else I have that I didn't sell, don't even think about it. I literally don't think about it until everyone else has just dumped it, like fire sold it, like it was like toxic acid, because it kind of is at that point.
Yeah.
And then you play the game. And so then I'll sort of, once that finally stops, because it eventually stops, it's going to take longer for Astral Radiance because of this large dump of product. I do believe it's going to take longer. And so that's why I hope that sellers are responsible with their ordering. That's why I'm so worried about this particular, because I think that people are so used to what it was for 2 years, where you had to order, literally, you say to your distributor, give me 10 cases, and they give you 3 cases, and you're like, can I have 3 more? And they're like, God, you have 1 more. And then they're like, fine, take it. And I think people are going to say that, and they're going to get 10 cases. They say, give me 10 cases, and they're going to get 10 cases, and the demand isn't going to be there for it. It's just going to be like, well, now I have a $10,000, because not only 10 cases, you got to get all these other products too. So you got a 10K distribution order that you got to pay back in 30 days or less. And the market just isn't there. So like, that's why like I worry about this particular set. And like, I am a little bit like I'm bullish on Pokemon Go. Like I literally told my distributor, I was like, yo, give me as much Pokemon Go as you possibly are comfortable giving me. He's like, what about Astral Radiance? I was like, give me as much as I need to take. I was like, Pokemon Go, give me as much as I possibly can get, especially with those damn EV boxes. But that's where I'm at, just as like transparency with this set. And like it's just funny because like, I'm sure you can speak to this as a seller. I just find the standards that buyers and sellers are held to are somewhat fun. They're somewhat funny at times, and it's just, the types of things you run into as a seller are just kind of funny. Have you run into anything crazy like that you found that you're just, as a seller, you're just like, how do people go through life with this mentality? But then you realize, they probably do. So
I've never done pre-ordering and I never will.
Okay.
I get my product in. If out of the gate it's selling super low, I'll just hang on to it. Years ago, it was easier because you just like clockwork. Like 2 years later, Pokemon would stop printing it.
Order then. Yep.
Distributors would say last call, take what you want, and then you'd get your few cases, whatever you were taking.
Yep.
Now it's like team up happened where the reprint never came.
And now people are like,
yeah,
I have a PTSD about that.
Yeah. So it's like a fun optimization game though. It's really interesting to try to look at it all and figure out how much I want to buy and what I want to buy and when.
It fuels the gamblers. It fuels the gamblers' mentality in the hobby for sure. And I do believe that there is a large amount of that in the hobby. I'm not just speaking to you. We were just joking earlier, but like I do believe, and you know, Jake from Pokenomics talks a lot of, I really appreciate Jake in this hobby because he's one of the only people who actually talks about, I think, some of the most important and like not fun topics to bring up is like gambling addiction and like unhealthy spending habits and just habits in general in collecting and the hobby. And whether that's just because we're a young hobby and like we don't like to talk about it because we're not as mature about it and we don't like to bring it out in the open, but I do appreciate that he'll talk about that, right? So that's always what I was really drawn to about his channel, is like those real like philosophical, like deep talks about that stuff in the hobby, because that is stuff that literally keeps me up at night. Like I studied, like when I was in college, my favorite classes were philosophy, and like those types of courses were sort of my favorite things to study, and those are the conversations I like to have. So like I do worry about that sometime in the hobby, and like I'm a pack breaker, so like I am on the front lines for that type of, you know, spending. Now a lot of what's said about pack breakers I do think is a little bit unfair, and I think it's said from the investment side, or like the big brain side of like looking the outside looking in, saying like they see one bad thing happen, they equate it to all the rest of it, they said I would never do that, and I don't know how those people are stupid enough. I would never be that person. And a lot of the time it's just not the case. Like most of the time the people that spend on my stream are spending between $7 and $20 on average per purchase, and they're purchasing a couple of purchases, and it's mostly just, it's a fun little thing that they're doing. And I want to say it's for the experience of being a part of a community. It's for the experience of like just being there and interacting, rather than being and watching like behind a screen like you would in a YouTube video where you literally have no interaction. And so oftentimes it's not a value play that people are making. So like when you look at it, you're like, yo, how is someone going to pay $5 for that booster pack when it's $3.49 at their Target? They're getting clearly ripped off for $1.50. But in reality, what they're paying for is that experience of being in the room with that person talking to them, opening the pack with them. And it's almost like they're in the card shop with them, or the way I liken it on my channel. It's like you're sitting there at the card shop with your friends, opening cards, and you get to experience with someone instead of in your home alone. So like someone may look at that and say, well, that is unhealthy. That's predatory. It's playing off of someone's need for, you know, friendship, need for whatever, need for group, that group mentality that humans all have. But how is that different than paying for going to the movies, paying to go to a bar and be in a social interaction, and paying extra for these things? That, so when you look at it that way, to me, it sort of breaks down a little bit easier and it becomes a little easier to swallow. So yes, are people charging more than what you could buy at your local grocery store? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Though I've actually been to lots of streams where things go a lot lower than what retail is, because it's just people trying to do it for fun and people breaking the packs, and it's sort of an experience sort of thing. So I do think that there's a lot of that gambling mentality in the hobby. And so like I said, I'm on the front lines of it. I see it. But I will say that almost none, some, maybe a couple without, you know, being apparent, but most of my customers, and most of the customers I see on these big streams like PokeRev or these big streamers who are charging a lot, significantly more than retail, and not getting flack for it, mind you, they are essentially, they know that they're spending more than retail. The people, they don't care. It's discretionary income. They're playing the game. And so like the biggest people who are like, you know, white knighting for these people and going to bat for these people, they're going to bat for people who don't give a shit about it. These people don't care. Yeah. So,
at the end of the day, my take on all of it is like, adults can spend their money how they choose, as long as they're not being intentionally misled or sold like completely
like a bait and switch.
Yeah, as long as there's no blatant scamming going on, or like really sleazy used car salesman tactics to coax people into the purchase,
or changing odds. One of the things that really grinds my gears, and when odds aren't posted for weird, like, first of all, gambling is illegal, and first of all, things like mystery bags, pull boxes, all that stuff, that's all fine and dandy. But if you're gonna do it, there needs to be some transparency with it. So like there need to be odds posted. There needs to be, and my platform has addressed that in the recent past, because there's been a lot of kickback about that. And yes, like the PokeRev mystery pack, there needs to be a level of transparency to them, even if it's the worst deal in the world. Like I think those are a terrible deal. No offense, PokeRev. I shout out to what you're doing. Great job. Like, it's tons of I know, but I just think that the transparency of that is next level, and I love it.
Mhm.
And Chloe's doing it, and I'm really happy to see that, because I think that that is the level. That's what I want to see from people. Now, let's be real. That's hard to do. The manufacturing that PokeRev and Chloe had to do to get to that level, they're massive YouTubers. Like, so for like any of the smaller guys out there to like try to hold a pack like that up to like a small growing business, I don't think that every business needs to have professional packaging where it has like your name printed, but like it's very important to be transparent with your odds, to be full disclosure what's in, what your possibilities of getting, I think, are, or to at least, and then for my case, it's a lot easier for me to say this because like I do things live. If you're just like a blind eBay seller, TCG seller, like a Facebook seller where you literally you don't interact with anyone, like you don't have to see the people opening your product. You can just throw junk in there and they order once, you're good. You're just relying on that one time. Like for a lot of live sellers and people who interact with their community, I have to actually see. So if I make something, I have to make sure it's good because I have to deal with the direct repercussions if it's bad of an unhappy customer. So like, so there is that involved with it. So maybe I'm speaking from a level that probably isn't necessarily, it's a little bit biased, but yeah, it's to me, I think it's to all okay. And that's, of course, I'm from a standpoint where I'm an evil scalper, you know, evil whatnot breaker. So of course I'm gonna say like, yeah, it's all okay. He's gonna try to take your money for anything. He's selling $25 Hidden Fates packs. Let's go. Like that's my favorite. Man, I wish I could sell those things for $25. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, I do think that, you know, now it's much better than it was. Like for, I don't get criticism like that anymore, but like a year ago when everyone was screaming about what about the kids, scalper this, scalper that, you know, literally anyone who had Pokemon cards was a scalper. Anyone selling Pokemon cards was a scalper. So like, and then I was live streaming. So like, I guess I would have liked to have been, I guess, a little more anonymous at that time, probably would have felt a lot better to sell into the high if I didn't have, you know, but it is what it is. Now I
Yeah.
think getting back onto you know, the modern talk and what it is in today's terms, I think we're going into another period where, you know, we may see a little stagnation, but I think that, like you said earlier, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of potential optimization to be had. That being said, man, CGC, speaking of optimization, it's a lot of plays I think to be made in grading companies, even with all these junk slabs coming back. I do think that people, and so are you still sending the CGC right now, or are you kind of cooling off right now with that?
I did recently send out, I did a couple videos this week. Actually, I guess one, I'm trying to remember what I even have going live this week, but yeah, I did a couple send offs to CGC, 100 cards, 50 through a middle, that one goes live tomorrow, 50 through a middleman, 50 direct. And then
Nice.
on Monday, I did 25 to the PWCC,
Mhm.
CGC. What did Rattle call it? Junk slab speed run.
Yes, I love that. I was like, oh God, I can't wait to see what Dan says about this one. This is fantastic. I literally thought of you when I saw that. I'm going to do a test run myself and send to them because I was going to send some to PWCC because I don't auction on that platform, but I was going to send some. So I was actually going to do similar to what you did and send like a little 10 cards, you know, trial submission to them.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile to just, there's so many different platforms out there. I think it's worthwhile as both a seller and a buyer to just give them all a shot. And I think there's pros and cons to every one of them. So the service, similar to everything else, I think there's pros and cons to it. Mostly pros though, because like, and same thing for anything else, you can choose to not use it if it's not for you, if it's something you don't like. If you want to take all the negative sides of it and you just don't like it, that's fine to opt out of it and not participate. But for me, like I see the utility in it, in that the whole junk slab speed run, it's more hands off. It's a bit more passive. I'm a one-man operation with limited time, and I have what feels like an unlimited amount of inventory I need to move. So having some amount, I'm not going to send them 10,000 cards a month, every month, but trickling them a handful of cards here and there, it's just another outlet.
Yeah, and I mean it's easier too, honestly. It's like you just send them raw cards and they do the work and it's quicker.
Yep.
Like for $5 extra, yeah, okay. I'll play ball.
Yeah.
I'll play ball a little bit. And then I don't even have to send them to PWC. They'll just put them on there myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll play ball. Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna get Rattle on here, and it's gonna be a fun talk because he cannot stand pack breakers. He cannot stand, but he and I see eye to eye on things a lot more than he would probably like to admit. But yeah, I think it'd be a really funny talk one of these days. I'll have him on here, and I always feel like if you sell long enough, or if you're involved in this hobby long enough, you got to have some sort of interaction, hopefully a good interaction with Rattle. Most of the time you would hope to be a good, but you're going to be have an interaction in some way, whether when you're long enough. So I just hope my interaction with them is here on this channel. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
but yeah, it'll be a pretty funny interview when we finally have that. But yeah, I mean, as far as like selling Pokemon cards is concerned, this interview has been a really good one to have because like I feel like you're one of the top sellers on eBay for graded cards. I think I may have mentioned it earlier in the stream, or maybe it was before the hand, but like for me, for example, I don't sell really graded cards, but like graded cards are definitely like your bread and butter. Like I wouldn't even try to go on eBay and play the best price on eBay, because I'm going to shout your eBay out again if I haven't already. This guy has always got the best price on eBay on slabs, because I'm pretty sure you've probably got over 200 of those Charizard from the Champions Path probably graded. It's still in the backlog, right? Am I wrong about that?
I had, yeah. A lot of them are back and sold through, but I have a handful left. Those ones, like 99%, probably 90% of what I list on eBay, I searched the lowest listing and I beat it by a little bit just to move things. My cost basis is pretty low in most things, so I just move it. That's one that like I'm down to my last 5 or so. So I'm actually selling at like 55 when the lowest on eBay is probably 45 to 50.
Wow.
But mine are still slowly moving because I have good sales ranking.
Right.
So I'm higher up in the algorithm for the search.
Yeah. I hate scrolling as well. And like after the second or third reload on the eBay, I'm just not scrolling anymore. So yeah, if yours is towards the top, you're probably gonna get a couple extra bucks from me. Absolutely. People will pay so much more for laziness. And that is like the convenience tax is such a real thing. Like it always has surprised me because like this hobby is both flooded by nickel and dimers. Like it's always been like I always say like since I've grown up in card shops, like I've had binders, I've always had my trade binder and then my regular binder that's like for my play sets and my cards that I'm not trading. But like my trade binder, it's always so funny trading because literally I'll spend 5 minutes on a 50 cent. Like someone will nickel and dime for 50 cents just to get that perceived value equal. And like people will come out feeling like they won out of a 50-cent win when you finally. So like this hobby is both flooded by nickel and dimers, but it's also flooded by individuals who are very much so like okay with the convenience tax. So it's like a duality. Like one day they're trying to save as much as they can just so the next day they can then spend it on something dumb for that,
just
that little
$50.
Yeah, just be like, okay, so now I save $5 here so I can spend that extra on something dumb that then I really didn't. It's just such a funny concept to me.
Yeah, I mean, people that'll just chuck. I'm trying to find a good example. I've always got a pile of slabs near me.
I'm sure
people who will chuck $50
slabs total. I'm sure you've got 100 slabs literally next to you right now.
Like here's a good card that it peaked way too high in 2020, but even today, like you can almost assuredly go out and buy a dozen raw mint copies and you'll probably find one that will grade a 10, but that's like 2 years away to get it, and then to get it through bulk at $10 or less. Or you can just spend, I don't even know what they go for now, but probably $100, $150.
I need it in plastic, Dan. Having the card is not enough. I need it in plastic, and I need someone else to tell me it's a 10. It doesn't matter if it's the same card. It doesn't matter if it's the best. It can be the most pristine card. If it gets a 9 on it, I don't want it anymore. It has to be a 10.
External validation. Yeah.
I need it. I need to post on my Instagram. I can't post a raw card on my Instagram. What will my friends think? They'll think I'm a dirty raw collector. Ugh, gross. I'm a binder collector. Ugh, that's the worst. Like the worst is like either a binder collector or a player, because the player is gonna damage their own cards and they're gonna like it. What is going on with that? I mean, not only are they damaging their cards, but they're proud of it. What
Yeah.
is that? So yeah, I'm sorry, rant off. But yeah, this has been a really interesting one, because I've been enjoying this spicy talks. But that being said, I haven't asked this question of you yet. I kind of want to get back onto our interview here, because there are some very important questions that I know our audience wants to know, more than just my clowning on graded cards and people who buy them. No offense to anyone who does. But I don't think we've ever really talked about this, Dan. But who is your favorite? Like, or okay, so dual part question, two questions. What's your favorite Pokemon generation? And then furthermore, what's your favorite TCG set, like, of all time? Because I think those are both telling things about people.
They'll probably be pretty boring answers, but Gen 1 and then those first three sets, because those are like, I've owned and I currently own a lot of really cool and really expensive stuff. But like the one thing that I'll never sell is my childhood binder, base Jungle Fossil Unlimited. If I were to grade these cards, they'd be in PSA 4 to PSA 7 condition. But they're like,
too. Yeah,
like all the big hitters. Like I remember pulling a lot of them. I remember getting the Charizard for Christmas. I remember trading for the Venusaur on the bus. They just have stories and they have ties to my nostalgia. So yeah, like I guess it's a tie between base Jungle Fossil, just because those were like my core ones in my youth. Kind of a boring answer. To give a more up-to-date answer, to give one like from an art perspective, from a not just picking the easy my nostalgia one. I loved Hidden Fates. Like it's gonna feel like to me, it feels like it'll go down as a historic set 25 years from now, looking back over the history. So many beautiful card designs, so many cool rarities, but that shiny vault was really something else. Those packs, yeah, you like so many hits. I loved Celebrations too, honestly.
yeah.
Celebrations and Hidden Fates really stand out
Same
to
sort
me
of
as
thing. It
two.
hit on the same nostalgia, like,
Yep.
you know, that vintage. It felt like it was a vintage but modern thing. Yeah, yeah.
And Hidden, or sorry, Celebrations was just a cool like homage to the 25-year history. You got a little bit of all those
Hidden
eras,
Fates
not
was
everything.
revolutionary, but yeah, Hidden Fates was revolutionary for sure.
Yep. Yeah. So those two would be like two of my favorite more modern sets. And this is coming from someone who's opened everything. I can appreciate everything. I think I'm easy to please in that some people hate level X's, hate legends, hate I like it all.
Yeah.
But like Hidden Fates and Celebrations really just stood out to me.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, because like I've been on record, like we said, even on this podcast, I've said Unseen Forces is like my favorite set. But like I break down vintage and modern, right? And so like when I think of things, I think what's my favorite modern set and what's my favorite vintage set, for kind of different reasons. For I think it's very obvious why we separate them, though. Now where that separation is at, that's a whole nother story. But like for modern sets, doesn't get better than Hidden Fates. Now I'm biased. It got me back in the hobby. It was what dragged me back in, kicking and screaming into this thing. And I love Pokemon. Like, contrary to what people, the haters, are want to believe, I really love Pokemon. Like, there's very few things in life that give me as much joy as this little stupid card game, whole IP, like the whole lifestyle, right? I just like, I love it all. I was in it before the cards. I was in it with Pokemon Go a little bit for a couple of years when that was booming. I was more into that sort of aspect in that game, but then like the cards kind of evolved more into what I'm into now. But it's always been something with Pokemon for some regard, and I don't know what that is about it, but yeah, Hidden Fates is the set that I do think, with even the amount of people who are holding hordes and hordes of it in their closet, like I still haven't found someone who has more than, besides I think you said you had a case and a half or something, right? Maybe two cases close to. I haven't found someone with more than you. that I know anecdotally. I know of someone who has like 5 in their closet. I have like 5 or 6. And because I had a case and a half and I sold through a case of them just because I was thinking, what do I need a case of these things for? And I slowly have been selling a little bit here and there, but like I'm a Hidden Fates bull. Like I do believe that like Hidden Fates is one of those sets that can I see someone paying like $20 for a pack of Chilling Rain? Nah, never. Never for one pack. Like a whole booster box. When I think of modern sets, I think of like booster boxes. Like how many booster boxes am I going to open to get my hit? Like, can I think of someone opening one pack of Hidden Fates and paying an exorbitant amount for that chance on one pack? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I don't need a booster box. I need one pack of Hidden Fates and you can hit big. And like, I just don't see that level, that willingness to make that jump with any other modern set, even Celebrations with those 4-card packs. Like, I just don't see $20, $30 a pack ever happening. Whereas with like Hidden Fates, we're almost there. We've seen it. I have personally sold $25 Hidden Fates packs. And not anymore, but I have personally sold them. So I know we can get there again. So like in a set like that, that's not getting a reprint. Or I'm sorry, there's going to be 1,000 more reprints. It'll come with the Evolutions reprint. It'll come with the Cosmic Eclipse reprint. It'll come with, the tag team reprint. So, but besides that, like I'm right there with you, Dan. Hidden Fates, that's the best modern set in my opinion. I agree with that.
Yeah, and Celebrations too. I really like that set a lot.
Mm-hmm. And the only thing I would think that was holding Celebrations a little bit back, and this never held Hidden Fates back, but it would be the print run, right? And that never held Evolutions back. It never held base set back. Never held Jungle back, Fossil back. So I will say something you said earlier about Jungle and Fossil, I find to still be true in this hobby. Jungle and Fossil are ubiquitous on the market. Literally, you can find them anywhere. I could like trip. I can go outside of my office right now. I'll probably trip on some Jungle and Fossil packs. Yeah, it's like base set. I don't have one on me, but I have. Here's a graded pack for you. A base set pack. It's the most common thing in the whole world. I don't know when that will ever end. Like, and the fact that it still is out there is still astounding. Like, I personally, now I haven't been able to talk to the guy. He's kind of ghosted me a little bit. I know of where a sealed rocket case is at still in the world. I knew of where a sealed Jungle case was at until it got opened and started ripping packs out of it. And we ripped a bunch of no symbols out of that Jungle case. So like, there are these things in the world that still exist, and it is wild to me that those are just like in someone's closet. But like, you don't see that with EX era. You don't see that with like Diamond and Pearl, really.
Rusty mentioned before when he was asked, he said if he had to, he could probably source 1,000 base unlimited booster boxes by himself. Not that he has that many himself, but he could source that many if he had to. And I remember during the boom, never anything that I pursued because I wasn't a buyer of $30,000 base set unlimited boxes. But I remember having people reach out to me or people be forwarded to me as if I'm some kind of a billionaire or something. But I saw people with multiple cases of base through Rocket or base through Gym, and they were looking, I would have been too, to move 30 base unlimited booster boxes at 30,000 a piece.
On my platform, there was a Team Rocket returns case that was broken on Whatnot that continues to be, they're hunting the gold stars out of it. But it was a sealed Team Rocket returns case that the guy still has 2 boxes left from it.
I saw one of those streams. Yeah,
Team Rocket returns. That. Yeah, good TRR. He's a good guy. I like him. He's a great streamer. He gets way more than I ever will on any of mine, but he's a great streamer, so he deserves it, to be honest. But yeah, those things are so rare. Whereas like things like base set, things like Fossil, things like WotC, the things that we all go back to the most, that like most people I would say like the safe investments, those are like the most common. So like I guess I don't look at those things as safe investments for that reason. Like I view them as nostalgic, but I don't view them as necessarily like, I don't know, like there's a lot of argument between like vintage versus modern, and a lot of that argument is based on Wizards of the Coast, right? So like, and I just feel like Wizards of the Coast is like a terrible example of that because of like its fundamentals are kind of so bad.
And like Pokemon has this weird dynamic where it's super new, and but like MetaZoo, the earliest stuff is the rarest stuff. Magic, the earliest stuff is the rarest stuff. I don't know 100%, but I'm assuming in Yu-Gi-Oh, the print runs must have been lower earlier on and then got higher. But like Pokemon has this thing where base started here and then it went into this huge lull for a decade, and now the print runs are back up here. So like the early stuff is really old, but they also printed billions and billions and billions of it. In Magic, like we know that it's nearing 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And to start, they only printed 1,100 of each alpha rare.
Yeah, literally 1,100 of each rare, and how many of those due to attrition were literally thrown away? You know, Magic and Alpha was garbage. You didn't want it because it had the different corners. You couldn't play it in your decks. Beta was what you wanted. You wanted beta. Alpha was garbage. Garbage. Get that out of here. Give me the beta cards or nothing. And so even more so, do you know of the collector's edition? The collector's edition, there were even less. There were literally 5,000 international collector's editions and 10,000 of the regular ones. So like it's even less than that, and there's only one of each card in those. So the scarcity in Magic is an absolute real thing for sure.
Yeah, it's just interesting that whole thing where like Magic, it's easy to know what should be the most valuable, and it is because it's the oldest and the rarest and the most historic. But in Pokemon, it's a bit tougher because like base set first edition does stand out separately. Jungle, Fossil, Rocket, way more first editions of those printed. But yeah, really interesting thing to try to figure out what should the price of these be. It's a bit tougher,
right? Like the price of it at any given time, it's a piece of cardboard. That's oftentimes another thing that I go back to when it's like a modern versus vintage argument. At the end of the day, they're both the same piece of cardboard. They may be a couple years apart and they may be different print runs, different artwork, all of it. But at the end of the day, they are the same thing when you're holding them up next to each other, whether it's now or whether it was 20 years ago. So it always has to do with just whoever's willing to pay what for that thing. So yeah, it is a fun dynamic though. Like I think that selling in a illiquid market has always been one of those things that makes it, for me, exciting, to be honest. I think that the increased liquidity that we're seeing with these new platforms like Drip Shop, like whatnot, like live, like with the new live streaming platforms going, I think that that's a good thing for the hobby because it allows for people with more outlets to sell their cards. Because even though it's good if people hold their cards and they diamond hands it and they take it off of the market, I do think it's also important that people interact with the hobby and they sell cards, because like that's like the first thing. That's like that's got to be, if my channel has a theme, it's got to be just sell your cards. Just try it. Just sell your cards, guys. Just try it once. Like it's not the end of the world. You can sell cards and still have an awesome collection. It's possible. So like it's, I think one of the more important aspects about the hobby that like is often villainized, that like having this talk with you has been really cathartic and really good to have, because you're a big seller, you know? And but I also think that you're a huge collector, and I think it's clear that like you love this thing. And like if somebody who loves the hobby can't also make a business out of it and enjoy it, then who should be making businesses out of this thing? Like who are the people that should be involved with Pokemon if it's not the people who really love it? So
yeah,
I guess that's got to be like a theme of this channel, is like just, it's just funny to me that aspect. So having this talk with you has been really good. But speaking of the hobby, in 10 years from now, you think that can you see the hobby still sticking around? And I guess if so, do you still see yourself as being a part of it, or do you think you would have sold out long before then and like moved on to other things? Or is that sort of a year by year thing you're sort of looking at?
Yeah, so I left for a little over 10 years, from 2003 till 2014. with that quick little stint on eBay for like a week in
We won't count
2011.
that. Yeah. That was
Yeah.
just your binders. Yeah. You dipped your
So
toes back in, you saw black and white, and you're out, which I don't
yeah,
think.
I don't think I'll ever fully leave it again. I think it'll always be a part of my life. Um, I don't know that it will be 5 years, I'd say. I'm quite confident it'll be 95% of what I'm doing as my full-time job. 10 years though gets tough. 10 years ago, like I only worked as a chemical engineer for 10 years. And when I started that job, I intended on that being my career. And I'm kind of a strange one in that, like, the standard thing of working at a job for 40 years until you turn 65, and like that hedonic treadmill, just your spending keeps up with your salary. That's never been me. I've always lived well
That's
below my
boomer
means.
talk, man. That's just boomer talk right there. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always had the plan to semi-retire before 40, and quitting my job to do this full time is kind of like a first step towards that, because now I'm my own boss. I can set my own hours. So yeah, within 10 years, maybe I'm just doing a fair bit more passive type stuff still with the hobby, but running different kinds of businesses, some aspect of the hobby. I don't really know. We'll have to see. Right now, though, at least 5 years, I would say pretty confidently that I'll be here doing eBay, Troll and Toad, maybe some of these other various platforms that might take off. We'll have to see. That it's a big space, and there's a lot of people throwing big money at it. Golden Heritage, PWCC, partnering up with eBay. It's fascinating to be a part of.
Yeah, and that being said, all that extra money and all the people who invested into that during the time, they're not going to be so quick to just want to abandon that because they're invested in it. So
Yep.
like even if they maybe beforehand weren't involved with the hobby, they have more of a vested interest, literally speaking, in staying involved with the hobby. So yes, so I would probably tend to agree with you. I probably see myself at least staying in another 5. I've been back in the hobby for just 3 years here, so going on about 3 years. So it's not that long. I was still involved with Magic the Gathering when I took my hiatus. The thing that took me away from Pokemon was one event. I was at a tournament. I was playing a tournament, a Pokemon tournament. I was playing my game. I had my binder and my deck box underneath my chair at the tournament. I went to go after my game, grab my binder and deck box, and it wasn't there. And so, like, I was a 12-year-old at the time, and I was like shattered. My world was shattered. And I decided that I was not going to continue with this kids game anymore. I was going to move to Magic the Gathering because it was more of an adult themed game, I thought. I was like, that's kids stuff, Pokemon anyway. And so I just dropped it. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna try to. I had already built my binder. I did everything I wanted to. I was like, I'm just gonna go to Magic. And so this box right up there, Urza's Saga. I bought a booster pack of Urza's Saga, first ever pack. Opened like a $30 card, traded it in for 5 more packs right there, and was like, right then I was hooked to Magic. And like it's a player's game, and I was a player. So like I actually stayed involved with Magic until 2009. I played competitively. I played the DCI. I had a DCI number. I was in the Pro Tour circuit. I was going to qualifiers and trying to play competitively. I was in a play group where I would play with like every Friday. I would play with the same group of people. I wouldn't have to have my own cards. I would just play with the play group's cards because I was only interested in playing, and they would supply the cards. And if I won a prize, they'd pay for my entry to things, and I would just donate my prize to the play group basically. And so that was how I sort of interacted with the hobby for a long time. Then I got out of it from 2009 till 2019. So I was also out of it for 10 years in the TCGs. And then in 2019, Hidden Fates dragged me back into Pokemon, started finding my Magic stuff again. Magic Arena, the online started going. So I started interacting with the hobby in like the playing sphere online with Magic a little bit. Really, Pokemon took off though. And like, I'm not happy with Wizards of the Coast right now. I haven't been happy with them for a very long time. I am very happy with everything the Pokemon company has been doing. I honestly think as a business, besides the fact that they favor their Japanese branch, and I think that is holding back their Western side a little bit, that favoritism where they're keeping the best stuff over in Japan only. And it's because of, I think, a little bit of a bias towards Westerners, against them, I should say, not towards them. But that's a whole nother thing. I'm very happy with what Pokemon as a company is doing. I think they're making the right moves as a business. For me as an investor to invest in them, even though that I word is not something that's like to be thrown around lightly. Like, I see the things that company is doing and I say, yeah, that company likes to make money. They have their hand on the pulse of the community, and I see celebrations, and I see that's what the community needed. Not only was it needed based on what the print was, like how much of it that they gave us, because let's be honest, if they didn't print celebrations like to the ground, there would have been serious repercussions. We were already hearing people say scalper this, scalper that, they're calling, I can't wait for celebrations to just buy it all. They had to print so much of it that all those little scalper, twirly mustache, all of me's out there could do that and get crushed by it. And then the demand was still so high for it that it crushed it. So celebrations are knocked out of the park. Evolving size, we don't even need to talk about. It's $200 a booster box. That's far enough. That's over. The metal Pokemon cards, they saw those counterfeit cards out there, and they're like, "You guys like these? You guys like these things? These crappy things? You like these? Okay, guys." And they printed the single best product I think they have ever printed for the English Pokemon, and it's an English exclusive. The Japanese didn't even get it. Yeah, right there. I've got a case of them above me right here, and I'm not selling that thing for nothing. Like, that thing's going to the moon, dude. And it's the most obvious play. It shouldn't be controversial. And the Japanese didn't even get it. Like, that's what blows my mind. The fact that the English side is the only side that got those metal cards, that just doesn't make sense. That doesn't jive with my small little American mind. But I mean, it is, I like what Pokemon's doing. And so I guess I would probably agree with you. I think the 5 years is bright. I think that the 6 months is not bright. I think we're heading for a short term, a little bit. I don't want to say turmoil, but there's going to be some paper hands folding. Shout out to the Cardboard Hands podcast, but there's going to be some paper hands folding for sure in these next 6 months.
Yeah, and I mean, if we go into a deep recession / depression, I mean, it could get pretty ugly as far as ultra modern, vintage, high-end trophy market. It'll be really interesting to see how everything fares. But even this next month or two, we have a ton of big blocks coming up. Golden, Heritage, PWCC.
Yes,
I'm really interested to see how everything does.
I think those packs are going to end at close to 7,000 to 8,000 each. That's my prediction.
I hope they go that high, because if they go for like under 5, I'm going to be too tempted.
So I could be overestimating it. So what was the last one? He got like 30 and 40,000, but that was in a different market, right? The second one.
I think it was the first one that he had that whole NFT thing tied with, right? That he got like 30,000 a pack. And then I think his second one,
the NFT was with. The first one was just the shout out thing. I think that was closer to 10 or 11,000 a pack.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might be. Yeah.
The second one was with the NFT. They pumped it a lot harder and it was a lot bigger as a failure. I would call it a failure. Please, Logan Paul haters, comment on this shit. Please give me that YouTube algorithm bump. But yeah,
we have had 2 base first edition box breaks since Logan Paul. Yep. Both of them, I was present at the events. I didn't buy into the Orlando one, but we had the Pokemon Saves the World event, where you got base set first edition, Shadowless, and Unlimited. And those went for about 10,000 per set of packs. I bought 2. Wow. Nick went in 50-50 with me. So that's actually
pretty good. Like, that's really good, because Shadowless, that's tough.
The Heritage one, the $1 million box break, they called it. It ended up at the $500,000 box break.
So great.
Those base first edition packs went for 5,000 to 6,000 each.
And that's where I think it's going to sit. Maybe even, I mean, oh God, I hope it doesn't go under 5,000. I hope it doesn't go under 5,000, Dan.
If it goes under 5,000, I'm gonna end up having a pack in the box
That's what
probably.
I'm saying.
I
Like, I don't
don't
need
I
that.
don't want any.
I
Yeah.
don't need that. I don't want that. I need to move soon, Dan. That can't happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close my eyes and I hope no one talks to me about what the prices are sitting at. I'm gonna put in all my bids on Golden for everything else that I want like soon. And then I'm just gonna like I'm gonna go to the change password. I'm gonna change it to like some absolute and I'm not even gonna remember it or write
Give
it
it to your
down.
wife or something. Say, honey, don't give me this until after the auction's over.
I'm just gonna get myself locked out of my account so that I can't bid on them.
Yeah, geez. That's probably the safest thing right now.
I'm yeah.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of crazy stuff at Golden. I'm gonna be bidding on a lot of things. So
That
like
trophy set, that trophy first, second, third half art Pikachu.
that's above me,
Well,
but there's some
right,
other
but that's crazy.
yeah.
That's and then the first edition, or I mean not first, all the gold stars.
Yep.
Did you see every single gold star PSA 10 is going? It's only at 75,000, right? Only, but it's what do you think that's gonna end at? Like, what can I like? Geez, I don't even know. Like, geez, Louise.
I have an idea where it might go, and it's gonna be. I mean, there's a lot of value in that set.
Yes,
but
yeah. The Rayquaza alone wasn't the last sale at like 30 or 40.
yeah, I don't even know exactly, but
It was recently.
that's
It was a couple months ago, and I think it was at like 30 something, maybe close to 40 for the Rayquaza 10. Look, I know
yeah.
that I can't even get a Rayquaza that's bent in half gold star for like less than half a rack, basically. So like it's an uncomfortable amount of money to pay for like a card that was like stepped on and has a cigarette burn on it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the plight of being a PSA 1 collector and trying to get all of the gold stars for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, those box breaks I think are going to be interesting. I personally think that the whole Logan Paul thing is far and away done and over with. Like the very first thing that moved the market, but like we're not even going to hear a drip from the market like about this. It literally, if anything, I think it might go really low. And if he keeps on doing it, and he's not doing it in a bad way. I will say that what he's doing, he's not doing them too quickly. He's spacing them out. He has publicly said he's going to do more of these box breaks, so it's not a surprise that he's doing it. But I guess it is sort of it feels a little bit like a play to be doing it during like such a bearish time, because he could decide to do it whenever he wants, realistically.
I'd imagine he has some relationship with Golden where he's making out pretty well, even if the packs don't do that well.
He's getting eyes on their auction place. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to do the break on his YouTube.
That's right.
It says on May 29th. So that's going to be Golden all over the screen. It's going to be a big thing for them, like advertising wise.
There's also a box break of first edition happening on Whatnot on their platform later on this month as well, with one of the streamers. I forget which streamer. I should know. It's one of the bigger streamers, but I don't follow them really. But yeah, Whatnot's doing a first edition base set box break of their own as well. I think it's later this month. So there's a bunch of base set first edition that's going to be getting it. It's like that stuff. It just seems like it's always there. And I know everyone, I'm going to get heat for this, but man, it's just base set. It's just base set with a first edition stamp. Oh, some of the stamps are thick. Some of them are thin, Dan. Some of them are ghost stamps.
I'm not huge like a first edition stamp guy. There's a lot of people that say they want it to be brought back. I'm not that person.
God, no.
But the thing I love about base set first edition, it's shadowless too. So like there's a distinct difference between more than just the stamp between base first and base unlimited. I do like that a lot.
I just like shadowless better.
Shadowless looks nice.
I will go to the grave saying that the artwork and the actual card of the shadowless cards look better, leaps and bounds, than the same card with that stupid little stamp on it. That little stamp detracts. Not only do I think it's overvalued, I think it damages the card. It's a liken to like ruining the artwork of this brilliant masterpiece and then signing it on the front, just like over the artwork. Yeah, the shadowless just objectively looks better to me.
Yeah, I honestly I collect the first edition because that's the first edition. Yeah. But yeah, I'm in agreement. It's a cleaner look, the one without the stamp.
Yeah, and that is I hold to that through Unlimited through the entire hobby. So when they got away from first edition, even though I don't remember when, I wasn't in the hobby when they actually did away with it, but it was when WotC switched to e-reader era. So I was already out of the hobby by that time. But like, I'm wondering like how it was taken. Like, this is something I need to talk to Echo about. But I know that when Magic the Gathering, so in 1999, right after Urza's Saga was released, that was the last set that didn't have foils in it. In the next set in 1999, Magic the Gathering and Urza's Destiny did its very first premium set, meaning that in 1 in 3 packs, you had a chance for one of the cards being a foil. Do you know how the Magic the Gathering community took that at first, Dan?
Didn't like it.
We hated it. Yeah. We hated that shit. What is this, Pokemon? Like, what is this garbage? Like, we moved to Magic because we were trying to get away from this arbitrary foil this, foil that. It's a game. We like the cards. That's it. We like the cards. And so, like, then they started doing this foiling thing. Well, how's it taken now? You know, the reason why those damn boxes from that time are good, there's no reserve list. And so that set has reserve lists in it. So does the set after that has the foils in it. And then the set after that, that is the last set with reserve list. So there are only 2 sets where you could get foil reserve list cards. So not only does it have reserve list, but it has foil reserve list. So that's a whole nother thing. But those cards are now in the hobby, some of the most valuable and the hardest condition rarity cards to get. And so that's why those boxes are so valuable from that era. Has nothing to do with the cards inside. Literally nothing. The cards could be nothing as long as there's foils in there. And you got to grade the foils too. So it is a very interesting marketplace in that regard. But yeah, it's like back then we didn't like the foils coming to Magic the Gathering and that happened. So like taking the first edition stamp off, I wonder how that was taken by the community at the time. I would love to know. Personally, I think they would like it because like first edition, all it does is pump the price of the first edition and make it harder for the people you want to get your game piece. It makes it harder for those people to get it. And it only rewards people who are in it just for the money, who are just going to hoard it and keep it from the people you want to have it. So like as a business, you would think that you would want to get your product out to as many people as fast as possible to grow it as you possibly can. So like by splitting your product, you're not necessarily like doing a good thing. You're really doing yourself a disservice. So I would think that like if I was in the room, there had to have been some conversation, like some big brain conversation had to have been had like what are we doing here, guys? Like, what are we doing? Like, what's this little first edition stamp doing for us anyway? And like, I'm sure people now they look back at it and they like it, but I just wonder how at the time it was taken. I bet you people just didn't give a shit. They did not care, I bet.
And I've never bought any and I don't follow it. I'm just deep into like the YouTube space and I watch Rudy, but like Flesh and Blood recently did away with first edition.
Yes.
And yeah, that seems like a big thing that some people love it. Some people hate it. I really don't know. I'm just glad it's not still a thing in Pokemon because imagine these past 2 years, imagine if there was a split and the first 10% was all first edition. It was already bad enough. Imagine first edition Hidden Fates, first edition Evolving Skies. Oh my God, it would be a nightmare.
It's bad enough that you get this first print, second print crap with like the Hidden Fates ETBs where like, you know how the first print of ETBs had like the dark black ETB and then the second print has like that gold honeycomb thing going on with it. And then like the 10s, the first print, they're fully wrapped. Whereas the second print, they're only half wrapped. So people are like, is that first print or second print? Because the pull rate's better on first print versus second print. Yeah. It's all just like 2 cert, 5 cert, 6 cert, 1 cert, red shoe, blue shoe, 2 shoe, 3 shoe, whatever the hell it is. It's all hearsay, you know. But I find the same level of enjoyment out of it, though, to be honest. So
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And I think there are so many people in this hobby who want the first edition, who are like, that was what they were hoping would come back with like the anniversaries. Like, they're going to bring back the first edition stamp. It's like, no, you guys hope they don't bring back the first edition stamp. Like, you'll be big mad. People will be big mad if they brought that back. Like, they're big mad now with Unlimited, like with whatever the printed to oblivion. Like, so whenever I hear someone make an argument against modern and the only argument it is it's printed to oblivion, all it makes me want to do is double down and buy 10 more cases. Literally 10 more. I'm like, oh, printed to oblivion? 10 more.
I'm contemplating making a video like the whole YouTube space lately. There's this modern versus vintage thing, and I spend a lot on modern and I sell a lot of modern. Like this week, I bought 72 Fusion Strike, 36 Battle Styles, and 36 Chilling Reign.
Don't say that. I'm about to buy some Battle Styles here. I'm at the point where I like Battle Styles again. That T-Tar, man, I like it.
I kind of want to make a video on like I invested $20,000 into modern Pokemon and just these are the 5 things I bought. These are my top 5 modern Pokemon investments. like May 2022, top 5 modern Pokemon investments I'm buying now.
Yeah, like come on, roast me. Go on in the comments down below. Let's hear it.
Yeah. I just want to see if the algorithm like picks it up. I did a joke video with the whole Evolving Skies thing that went on last year. I did a joke and then I opened up an Oreo pack. Like I had a pack of Evolving Skies like sitting on screen talking about the best investment of the year and how obvious it was, and then I did a bait and switch and opened Oreos.
That's so good. That's actually how did I miss that one? That's actually hilarious. I'm gonna go back because that's a funny one. Yeah, no, I mean I do think that the whole modern versus vintage thing is a little bit beat to oblivion at this point. Yeah, I sold all mine. Like I said, I've been selling all mine. I'm down to the last of it.
I think I have like 10 left, maybe. I only have some here, and then I've got like maybe 8 or so at Troll and Toad.
God, I love Danny Phantom for doing that reprint of his. That's how confident he is. He, I think, sometimes is single-handedly trying to hold that confidence in the market and just maintain that level of just rational thinking. I think literally sometimes he is the dam that is holding back the FOMO that is causing people just to like lose their minds. So thank God for Danny in this hobby in some regards, just because like it's just funny because like every time he has a video, it's just like okay, Danny's gonna put out some good information right now. I already know for a fact, but I already know that people are probably gonna be like, woo, it's right over their head, and they're just gonna do the opposite of what he says. It's like, all right, good job, Danny. That's nice. Now let's go do the opposite of what you say here. But yeah, I definitely I have to say that the whole YouTube sphere right now has been just a buzz with the whole like vintage versus modern thing, and I think that's just I think it's because of the fact that there's not a lot else going on in the hobby. You know, we don't have a lot to talk about. So it's nice when we can have these kind of organic like sit downs too about the hobby, because I honestly think there is so much to love about this hobby, and it sometimes gets forgotten and lost, especially for like myself when I do this every day. And like I sometimes get a little jaded and bogged down with the day to day, you know, maybe I'm feeling bearish, maybe sales aren't good, whatever it is, I get a little jaded and I forget, but it always does help me to kind of come back to it and have these really nice chats. But I guess, I mean, unless you have some other last words, I do have one more question that I'd like to end on here. But if you can think of anything else you'd like to talk about, like other modern spicy topics, I would love to, you know, throw one more topic in there. But if not, I do have a good question to end on here because I have something I wanted to ask you after the fact.
I'm ready. Shoot.
Okay, so anyone, by the way, who has made it this far into the video, thank you so much. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already. Like, if you made it this far, you better be liking and subscribing to this video because you are deep in this video. And like, you sat here and listened to these two guys nerd out about like some really weird and obscure things about the Pokemon hobby. So you're a real one if you made it this far. But secondly, I did want to kind of finish with this sort of question about sort of the future, because I know that I've heard you talk about this a little bit, but your channel, your YouTube channel, what's next for you, or what's next for Catch 'em All Collectibles? Because I know that you've been pumping out some really, really good videos lately, but I know you probably also have plans for the future going there. So is there anything you want to shout out, or anything you want to give a little teaser here on the channel, or tell people what's next for Catch 'em All Collectibles? Like, even if it's just like collection goals, or channel goals, or even like life goals, run a marathon or
Yeah,
something.
my collection goals are all tough now because I've owned a large amount of everything I wanted at the start, and then I kind of branched out into Japanese trophies. So like most of what I want is all 5 figures plus, and it's just hard to spend that now, being more business minded. So one thing I'm really looking forward to this summer, which it's not really going to show anywhere because I just show you this clean corner of my office, but everything over there is just a nightmare.
Oh
The
yeah.
reason I can grab everything is because it's all here. Everything is a mess. My
Oh, I know.
floor,
Trust me.
everything.
Everything's within reach here too, so I get it. I totally get it.
So yeah, like plans for the business are just I'm going to catch up this summer finally, as long as I don't do anything crazy, as long as I don't buy any massive collections that slow me down more. But the end is near. I'm actually almost done going through all the totes, all the boxes that I built up from the first 6-7 years in the hobby of just buying and dumping stuff back, flipping my money back out. So I've almost gotten through my personal backlog. Like PSA is making good headway on their backlog. CGC has cleared theirs entirely. Mine's going to be done within the next couple months, which I'm excited about. I have
now, but the market's coming down quite a bit. You might have to start buying at an exponential rate just to keep up. So let's not get too excited there, Dan. We all know what happens in a down market.
And it's kind of like sad to say or think about, but like I'm pretty liquid. It's hard to say that I'm looking forward to it because I know what it means for the other side. But like I'm going into this recession in a pretty good spot to be ready to buy a lot of stuff if and when the deals show up. Like I'm always buying and always selling in all markets. If things get a little tighter, if the liquidity goes down, the prices go down too. I'm still going to be there doing what I can do. Maybe I will be able to knock off a few more collection goals if the mid to high end Japanese trophy market takes a real hit. Maybe Mew Orbs come back into play. Maybe Pika Rings come back into play. We'll have to see. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting through my own personal backlog, maybe working in a more organized, clean space. And I have this ongoing like Google Doc. I just throw in video ideas. I want to learn editing.
It's hard, man. I don't do it
I
either. I'm not good at it. I don't do a good job. So I'm right there with you, man. It's hard.
like it's just something I want to learn for myself. Another big thing that I want to learn, and like the editing, I've ordered all the components are either here or coming here in the next like week. I think the case is
Adobe. Are you gonna use Adobe Premiere? Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's my plan. But like right now I'm running off a docked laptop. When I quit my job 10 months ago, I wanted to build a new PC. I do a little bit of very light gaming. I do want to get back into playing Fortnite on occasions.
Shout out to anyone. Yo, I know I have some Fortnite lovers. There are some definite Fortnite lovers out here. So Dan finally talking about Fortnite.
Yeah.
I was trying to bait him into it earlier, but he didn't fall for it. He finally talked about it. All right, good.
I did find this under my pile on my desk.
I
Yeah, my
thought you were
Bigfoot
kidding
chase.
about getting those Bigfoots. I know you got them now. Oh man.
I want to collect every Bigfoot that's ever released on a card of any kind. So I've got MetaZoo and I've got Fortnite underway. There's got to be a bunch more. I'm gonna find them all and collect them.
Like Bigfoot, like in there's got to be like an old like 90s vampires versus where I don't know, some weird cryptic like card game that's dead that's got a Bigfoot. There's got to be some cool ones out there.
But yeah, I'm gonna get that PC built in the next couple of weeks, and then I wanna slowly throughout the summer learn how to edit here and there. I want to get like some of my videos. I have some. I not gonna be Pat Flynn-esque, not gonna be Deep Pocket Monster production levels, but
such a good job with that stuff. It is.
Yeah,
he puts us all to shame. Like
I don't even know how to put images over over the wall here. I don't know how to put text across the bottom. I don't know how to do like Nick. Nick does a little, he has an Apple computer, which has an inbuilt like video editing thing.
Yes, which is very easy to use too. I've heard that Apple editing is like a really easy user interface, which is cool.
He puts like the little thing here, like click the bell, click the subscribe, popping up little things on screens.
Well, I don't know how to do that. Yeah,
I don't know how to do any of that. I want to learn
Yeah,
it.
no, you've seen my videos. I don't know how to do any of that, Dan. Yeah, no way. That's really the young kids stuff. That's for Nick, okay?
And then like longer term, that might be too ambitious, but we'll see. I love what Pichu fan James does with Pokemetrics.
Yeah.
And I love what GemRate is doing with the pop reports and like how they scrape that data. Like I can manually make spreadsheets, but learning how to like
code
and scrape websites and interact with APIs and
useful. That's very
Pokedata.io, Pokemetrics. So I already said Pokemon Price. Being able to like build out resources like that and tools like that, it might be way too ambitious and I might never get there. But even learning like the preliminary stages of it, that's something that I want to do for myself.
Do you think that, or do you think learning Japanese would be more beneficial to your business overall and in the immediate? Because I've always felt like the one thing that I could and should do that I just am not going to do is learn Japanese. And that would be an immediate leg up, but it's just not gonna happen, right?
I never see that happening. I took like 4 years of Spanish and I think I'm back down to like taco, nacho, pizza, hola. That's about my
No, and I'm there with German. I took 3 years of German and like half a semester, and then I transferred to another elective. And so like I know like Danke schön and like Bitte and eins, zwei, drei, nein. And that's all. That's it. That's the extent of my German. And then I would probably be lost if I were to go to a Germanic company or a country and try to speak it.
Yeah.
So no, I agree. I think that's it's a good thing, a good goal to have. But I think that your channel is going to do well, man. I said it earlier in the stream, and I honestly really appreciate what you do for the hobby as far as like the transparency and like all of the spreadsheets. I will say that your sales tactics on your box breaks certainly there leaves a little bit room for it. I've never been to a channel where someone was selling me a pack and I was literally told it was like 80-something% chance that I'm gonna lose and that I shouldn't buy it. I've never that's that level of transparency is
to a fault.
I think that what people appreciate about your channel. So stick with it. I definitely appreciate what you do, and I know I'm not the only one, and I greatly appreciate your time here tonight too.
Yeah, self-dubbed worst box break salesman ever.
I know you got some of those sold though. Did you ever finish through that whole box, or you still got a couple of them?
I sold 10 out of 12 jungle packs. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I don't like, I want to have packs at the conventions. I didn't think I'd sell a single pack through YouTube at all. I didn't think my channel was big enough. Actively telling people you are going to lose money, don't buy these.
Probably not the way, that's how I would probably sell it, but.
So I only have like 2 heavy jungle packs to take to a convention. None of my rocket heavies sold, but I sold quite a few rocket lights. I sold quite a few jungle lights. I have all the Japanese fossil. I shouldn't have touched the Japanese fossil box, but
yeah, the Japanese boxes are so rare that like I would have almost probably kept it sealed just because of how rare it is.
One thing I've never done, and I kept it for a reason. I've never owned a Japanese box before. I'm trying to reach. The
wrapping is so crazy on it, isn't it?
Yeah, like I
hate it, but it makes me very hard. It makes me hard to want to buy them because of how weird it is.
I just dropped stuff.
Oh no!
I don't know what it was, but hopefully it was just junk slabs.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't the Japanese box, but yeah, no, those Japanese wrappers. Like, did you see the one where Rev got the box that was counterfeit? Like,
yeah,
that had one of those weird wrappers to it too, and those are really good counterfeits. So like. For me, I am so uncomfortable buying Japanese boxes. I know you bought that from a good source though, so that was why you could probably do that. But like, I honestly would probably never touch it unless it was from like a source like you got it from. It was Heritage, right?
Heritage. That's why I wanted to do it. I've never bought one, and I'm like, I kind of want to have some guaranteed hollow inventory for the show,
Mhm.
and I can buy it through a safe means, and I can feel the box, I can feel the wrapper. I save the wrapper
Yeah,
so
the
that if I
wrapper's
ever
good.
get one down the line,
Oh,
I
I always
can.
save the wrappers, yeah, of my box breaks. I put them inside the empty box, the Wizards wrapper. I put it inside just for my own sense of like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing about Wizards of the Coast boxes is that wrapper, it really does kind of, you can look at it, and I feel more confident with those English boxes, like being able to validate and external. And there's no way to truly, like in the last 6 months, I have been 2 times I've gotten resealed packs because I buy packs loose, I weigh them, and then I sell them on my channel as those weights. Because the narrative of this, here's a little secret for anyone who's been listening for 2 hours. The narrative is that you can only get light packs if you're buying them on eBay. That is strictly false. You should probably expect the worst in that most packs, if they're loose, they should have been weighed somewhere along the way. But let me tell you something, Dan. I'm one of the mods or one of the editors on the E4 pack weight database. I've contributed almost, it's got to been 15 or 20% of those weights at this point. It's such a large number of pack weights that I've put into that database. And I will tell you that even someone like me who has put in so much work and opened so much of those heavy versus light packs and put it on that database, I am not confident in most pack weights. There are even Wizards of the Coast weights that I'm not confident in. Sets like, I was saying this in the Discord the other day, in Neo Destiny, I just opened up a pack that weighed 21.03 grams. I've opened up a Neo Destiny pack that weighed 20.68 grams and had both a shiny and a hollow in it. In this 21.03 gram weight pack, Dan, can I tell you what was in it?
non-hollow.
It was a rare trainer and no shiny. And that was sold as a heavy pack on my channel because it was the heaviest Neo Destiny pack that I've seen both in the pack weight database and in my experience. So of course it's a heavy. So there are sets that can't be weighed or that I'm less confident on, that people just literally will maybe sell as a heavy and don't know. And there are some weights that there's literally no data on, or the data is so bad or so convoluted and old, or their weight wasn't calibrated on the scale, or it only goes to the tenths instead of the hundredths, that literally the data doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so like pack weighing is not a science. It is far from a science. I am probably one of the people in the world who has some of the experience weighing some of, I've weighed every single era of packs confidently, every single set besides some of the black and white era and more modern sets, because I just don't bother with modern. But
Yeah.
older packs, though, there's very much so a probability that you'll get a light pack. But I've opened EXs, the only rarities, I've opened shinies, and these are all purchased as single packs off of eBay, unweighed, or even in some cases, likely light. I love it when sellers are so honest that they put likely light, and then I message them, and then I'm saying, hey, is this pack, what's the weight if it's light? And they say, oh no, I didn't weigh it, it's just I would assume it's light because the person I got it from probably weighed it. Some of those sellers I've gotten heavy packs from when it said likely light. And the narrative that YouTube likes to have, and the narrative that these pack breakers, and it would behoove me to not tell this to people, but the narrative is that you will not get heavy packs if you buy single packs online. Your pack's going to be resealed, it's going to be tampered with, and it's going to be light. And like, great, like, please push that narrative all day while I'm selling packs. But I will tell you that from experience, I have found many heavy packs in what would have probably been light packs or assumed to have been light packs. And I just don't want that narrative to be out there anymore. I think it's a misleading narrative. I think it's bad for the hobby. I think it leads to scummy sales tactics and salesmanship by pack breakers who are since then raising the price for box fresh price of packs when these packs weren't going to get graded. Because let's be real, box fresh should probably make a premium if you're going to grade the pack, because then it hasn't been sloshing around in grandma's purse for 20 years. But because some of these loose packs I've gotten have had like scratches on the outside, and it does look like they've been in a shoebox for 20 years, but that adds to the legitimacy of them, because like these things were worthless for the longest time. And so like I personally, it grinds my gears, just to get in a little bit more of that spicy talk at the very end here, but it does grind my gears. The whole talk of like light versus heavy versus like, oh, if you buy on eBay, or if you buy a loose pack, it's guaranteed to be light. It's like, that's just straight bullshit, Dan. And I think that's bullshit. And I think that's people spinning a narrative either based on bad experiences they've had once and it's spinning out of control, or it's a literal more malicious tactic done by these big YouTubers who are trying to push pack prices of unweighed, untampered. Because it's like every single break now, if you see the box there, it's a premium for these like unweighed. And I don't know, man. I just find it to be scummy, and I got to call it like I see it sometimes. So,
yeah, I've definitely had experience from time to time. I don't buy loose pack lots often on eBay, but I have from time to time, and I've gotten some random like actual unweighed mixes where I bought 10 packs. I bid on them expecting them all to be light, and then lo and behold, 2 or 3 of them are heavy, or 4. And
then that seller is a good seller.
Yeah. There's times that I've gone back and I've bought more from them.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have one lot and one and done. That's it. They found something in their attic, but sometimes they have more. Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it's a good cautious rule of thumb, because 2/3 of the time, like if you're buying one pack, 2/3 of the time, it's going to be light.
Yeah.
Best case scenario. So like if you're buying one singular pack, best case, 67% of the time, it's going to be light. It's reasonable to presume that it will be, because in the case of bad actors, in the case of not even that seller, someone before. So like, it's a reasonable assumption to go in with, just to be cautious. But yeah, in my anecdotal experience, and sounds like yours, you can randomly get a true unweighed pack, which 1/3 of the time will yield a heavy, right? So,
and I would argue that there's a lot of sets that there just isn't data out there for, and like people can weigh that shit if they want to. Please weigh it. Tell me what 17.23 means to you from unseen forces. Tell me if you think that means a hollow or not. And then tell me what happens when you get a pack that weighs 16.43. Then what do you say? Then you're like, holy shit, that doesn't make any sense. Is there one less card in there? It's like, no, that just probably is print variation. And those do exist. And so like, if you're in the know, and this is always the case, like if you have knowledge of something, knowledge is power, right? You can use that to your advantage. So like, yeah, that's where a lot of great EX era packs that are open on my channel, a lot of them are purchased as single packs. They're weighed afterwards, and then essentially they're sold with that knowledge there. And I'll be honest, I've hit EXs. The only rarities I haven't hit from loose packs is a crystal, because I just don't see a lot of EX era packs, Aquapolis or Skyridge, that are loose being able to be purchased. A Skyridge pack is going to be $900, and there's no way it's going to go less than that in auction. And everybody does know Skyridge is very weighable. It's 17.5 or below is likely a non-hollow in Skyridge. It's very, very weighable. And so like, that's a set that if it's a loose pack, it's guaranteed pretty much to be light. But like sets from that EX era, from that Nintendo era, there's so much range and there's so little data out there that like, please, by all means, weigh it. Please, Joe Schmo off of eBay, who found your pack in the attic and went to Google and typed, "Can I weigh Pokemon packs?" Please, by all means, please weigh that pack and report back what you believe you found inside of it. Because I do this for a living, and I run the database on it on E4, and I am not confident in what some of those weights are. So like, if Joe Schmo on eBay knows better than me, then by all means. But that's my soapbox about packs and loose packs. But it's something that it does come up from time to time. And I find that I just wish that all sellers sold everything as a weighed pack, and were sort of upfront, and it was like it was expected, and like buyers demanded that, because like if all buyers just literally demanded it, there would be none of this bad actor shit. It would literally just be, oh, you're selling a pack, what's it weigh? If it weighs X, well, if it's from a sealed box, then sure, it's not going to have a weight. But like, if I'm not seeing it pulled from that box, what's it weigh? Because like, how hard is it to get a $5 scale? Like, don't give me this shit like, oh, sorry, I would never weigh a pack. Like, people get this high horse, like sometimes, like, I would never, how dare you ask me to weigh that? That's the scummiest thing. It's like, that's not scummy at all. That's just literally asking for transparency. It's in fact the other way around. The fact that people get offended by it and get all like, how dare you ask? That feels a little scummy to me. That feels like they're trying to hide something, because like a scale's $5. You can buy it from Amazon. You can go to your local weed shop. You can go local wherever and buy a scale for $5 to $10. So it's not a thing. And if you're selling a $200 pack, your incentive is to probably spend $5 to $10 to maybe make $100 to $200 extra. So the only time that I see it as incentive to not put the weight is if you both know that it's an unweighed pack, or that it is a weighed pack and it's light, and that you are trying to hide something, because you know that you could go buy a $10 weight and you would sell the pack for twice as much more for a heavy pack if it was heavy with the weight there. So it just seems like posturing to me. I don't like that shit. I don't like it. I see a lot of people who are like highly respected doing that, and I just want to, I got to say something, you know. I have to say, when I see that kind of stuff, just because I value this hobby and I sell in this hobby, and as like a seller, I have to, I wish that all other sellers would disclose weight. That being said, since nobody else does it, I don't do that shit. I do it on my channel. When people are buying packs, I'll disclose the weight, you know, and be up. But if I'm just going to sell blindly, no, I'm not going to put the weight, because what's the incentive when nobody else is? And yeah, is that potentially a little bit scummy and misleading? Sure. But is everyone else doing it? Absolutely. So it is the name of the game. And it's just, to me, it grinds my gears that it's like, it's just people aren't willing to talk about it. It's such like a taboo topic that like people don't want to talk about, because I believe that sellers have a vested interest in not having the discussion and just kind of leaving it out there. And buyers are just so ignorant about it, or there's this like posturing of like, weighed packs are bad. Only evil people weigh packs. That like, it's like this moral high horse thing that happens that prevents people from going to the next stage of like just knowledge. It's just information is all it is. For science, you know, it's science.
Yeah, and I remember years ago being back into this in 2014. Early on, it was like not even entirely known. And I was one of the ones that like, when it was even more taboo, when it was like weighing is bad, my opinion was always like, as long as you're disclosing it, like I would buy a box, I'd weigh it, I'd either grade the light packs or I'd sell them as art sets. Like there's a lot of demand out there. There's a lot of pack art collectors out there.
Yes, there are. And they're fantastic for light arts. That's the main thing that you should do with light. I would argue that opening unweighed packs is irresponsible. I might argue that it's in fact worse for the hobby for people to open unweighed packs. Yeah.
Yeah. So like before, like years ago, it was a bit more taboo. It was not widely accepted, but my take was like, not even everyone knew. Like I think almost everyone now knows at least weighing is a thing, so they can be wary of it. But
you hear people talking about it modern. People still say, "Oh, is that, you know, is it weighed?" On my stream, sometimes I'll know that they're new because they come in like, "Oh, is that a weight?" I'm like, I mean, it could be, but it doesn't matter anymore. But yeah.
But like when I was younger, people knew weighing was a thing in 1999 and in 2000.
Oh, I don't remember that. See, I didn't know that. I don't remember that back in the day.
I didn't know it back in the day, but if you ask Gary, if you talk, it was a thing. And like anecdotally, all the packs that I ever bought from Toys R Us, my hit rates were abysmal. Like I think like, what kind of pack weighing is scummy? And it's not even a thing anymore because they can't be weighed. But people who used to go to stores, weigh the packs on the shelf and take only the heavies, that was scummy.
I hate that. I hate
because like anecdotally, I probably got 50 packs or 100 packs from Toys R Us over the years. I don't remember getting anywhere near a 1 1/3 hit rate. So yeah, if you were like robbing the future buyers of the kids at Toys R Us years ago, like I think it's better that weighing is known by everyone and everyone can look out for it. Whereas back in the day, the few people who knew it and were scummy enough to capitalize on it did so at the cost of everyone else.
God, and that, yeah, and I didn't even realize that was literally a thing until later on in the hobby. And I'm sure a lot of people were like that. Like,
It
I've
wasn't widely known as far as I understand, but like Gary has mentioned that it was definitely known long ago.
So yeah, in Magic the Gathering, that was pack weighing was never a thing, but but like searching was. So
Mapping,
like,
yeah.
yeah, mapping and searching. So it's a little bit different. It's the same but different in a similar way. So like, there's always things like that that like with big TCGs, I think will develop over time. But yeah, I really like that about MetaZoo though. The fact that they can't be weighed. That's one thing. We keep going back to like this, you know, the MetaZoo thing, but I do think that they're doing some cool stuff. And like the fact that the packs can't be weighed, the tamper-proof sealing, the really nice packaging that every MetaZoo product has, like, so for me, that means a lot. I like the packaging. That's one of the selling points. As ironic as that is, someone might hear that and be like, oh, yep, that's why MetaZoo, that's why it's not going to work, because he only likes the packaging. He doesn't even like the cards inside. But honestly, the packaging is so nice and so clean. It looks good. Yeah, and that glow in the dark, like that's such a cool concept. Like, and they're willing to do that stuff. So like, so yeah, I think that is nice. So, and then pack weighing is just one of those things, man, that like I just wish it wasn't so taboo. So yeah, I'm going to continue doing the good work, and I'm going to continue being an advocate for pack weighing. I hope that I can get more people on board for it though, because I honestly do believe that it's just unfortunate that I see like that like scumminess happening in like that aspect of the hobby, just because like it doesn't have to, right? Like there's no reason, like these packs go for high enough as it is. It doesn't need to necessarily have this premium for being like unweighed, box fresh, like, but there is always going to be that. But I guess I'm just over here on my soapbox again about pack weighing, which always happens on my channel.
Yeah, and when I bought those boxes from Heritage, the way that I look at it, if I sell an unweighed pack, I'm selling more of a, like selling even a heavy pack is very much a gamble, but selling as unweighed, it's inherently even more of a gamble because you have that 1/3 that you need to get through to get the hollow. And then you have that 1 out of 16, 1 out of 15, depending on the set for what hollow you're going to get. And then you have the third layer of what grade is it going to get. But like at least selling heavy and light, the reason I opted to sell heavy and light, like you don't have to trust me because what someone could do, and I don't think anyone out there big is doing it, but like a bad actor could sell a box break as 36 unweighed packs. They could weigh out 4 of them and open them for themselves or sell those off to somebody and then slot in 4 more. Like as long as they're not opening them all in one stream, they could like thin the rates a little bit. And I didn't want anyone to worry that I was doing that. So I thought the most transparent way to do it, and then to take off like phase 1 of gambling, sell the heavy packs at a slight premium. So then you're giving like a known guaranteed hit to the people who want it.
Yep.
You're selling the lights cheaper so that pack art collectors have a more accessible option. And then yeah, no one needs to trust you. The light people are getting light packs, the heavy are getting guaranteed hits, and that first level of trust isn't needed because you just know what you're getting. You don't have to worry that I'm turning the 1/3 rates into like 1 in 4 or 1 in 5.
Yeah, and the way that I do pack breaks on my channel with packs, since I am dealing in individual, is if it's when I get the pack, I weigh it. If it's a heavy pack, then I'll sell it on my channel as a heavy, likely with like something called hollow insurance, which is like usually a card that's worth more than whatever's in the pack, because I am pretty confident it's going to have a hollow. So that if you buy into it at that heavy rate and it doesn't end up having a hollow, you still end up with something that's predetermined beforehand. So like, yeah, you're paying extra for a heavy rate, I'm taking the gamble by buying it as a potentially light. And then if it does come back as a light, then I'll sell it as a light pack or a most likely light without like a hollow insurance, just as whatever, whatever the price is at that rate. So like that's how I try to do it transparently so that people are sort of aware. And then it also takes away people opening light packs that they don't have to. So like I said and alluded to, I do think it is a bit of a travesty to open a light pack that could have easily been the disappointment have been recouped just by putting it on a scale. And so like it's just one of those things that I personally am a fan of that level of transparency. So I'm always an advocate for it. And so like that's how we do it on our channel. And like I feel like not a lot of other YouTubes like to talk about weighing packs except for like, oh, pack weighing bad, or like, oh, I never weigh packs. Like I would never, guys. Like, you know me, I would never. Or like you got someone like Rusty who could literally do whatever the hell he wants. He could say, yeah, these are all weighed and these are all light. Or he's like, these are unweighed, and literally all he has to say is like, you know me, guys. If I say it's unweighed, it's unweighed. And like but like, look, Rusty would never do this, but there's nothing stopping from Rusty from just literally one of those times being like, these are all light. Now he has the same thing that like for me on my channel, I have to interact directly with my customer. Rusty films all of his openings and he directly posts them. And I can tell he's not doing multiple videos. His mom's in the background right now, cooking dinner. So like he's not making a second video. So like there is that transparency that's there that I really appreciate. And I'm sure everyone does who watches YouTube. So like there's that. But like, it's one of those things that he very well could if he wanted to, and he never would. But like, it's just one of those things that I think if it just wasn't so taboo, if people just talked about it more, if it was just more of like an open subject, like people talk about modern versus vintage, it's like it would be, in my opinion, far better for the hobby. So that's what I hope to see. Yeah, and it's fun because I already know you do all of that. You're like the most transparent person on YouTube. Like I say, I'm transparent as a brick wall compared to you. So like that's what like that where we're at. And I think I'm pretty transparent with stuff too. I wear my emotions and my feelings on my sleeve. Like I say exactly how I feel most of the time. So yeah. But yeah, man, I think that this has been a really productive talk, and I really appreciate it. This time we're actually gonna end it. I've tried to end it 2 times and we keep getting bogged down because we too much to talk about in this freaking hobby, man.
I could go on for a lot longer, but yeah, you always need to find an endpoint somewhere.
And we will go on because we will be doing market chats, not just on my channel, but I'm sure on other channels. I know that Alex had invited me on his channel a little while back, so we'll probably be doing something on Nostalgianomics at some point, just like a little debate sort of thing. I talked to Alex the other day. We had him on the channel. Really great guy. Loved having him on here.
How dare you? Yeah, I like that intro.
Yeah, didn't you like that? Yeah, like I think that what he's doing for the hobby is really great, getting people talking about it. I don't have to agree with everything he says. I do agree with a lot of what he says, though. I know that's a hot take. Like
I'm on board with you. Like I think certain people are too negative against his channel, and I there's no one that I universally agree with, myself included. Like I can't even agree with myself every day. So like if there's anyone out there blindly following anyone,
just don't.
Yeah, like nobody.
Do yourself a favor and don't. Yeah, but I had him on and we had a good talk, and I have to say I love the engagement that it's getting in the hobby. So it's something we sorely needed. So I was happy to have him on and happy to talk to him. We're probably gonna do some weird market chat or something with him at some point. So I hope we can do something soon too like that, because I think one of my favorite things to do is just sit around with other people who love the hobby and just chit chat about it and just shoot the shit about it.
I've said it many times. Like, this is my favorite content to both consume and to make. Like, I can listen to any two people, I shouldn't say guys, any two people passionate about the hobby talking about it for hours and hours. Like, any aspect of it, all aspects of it, just I love it.
I can do and will. I will consume much of that content. I will continue making it. and I'll probably continue consuming it as well. So
Yo.
yeah. So everyone, if you haven't already, we're going to have links to all these channels that we talk about down in the description. This is going to be a long link down here. It's going to be several more than we're used to because we did a lot of shout outs, but we covered a lot of ground here. If you guys want to see more of Dan, make sure you go follow him on his channel there. And shout out to the Pokenomics Discord. We are active in the Pokenomics Discord all the time. Take what we say with a grain of salt in there. There's a lot of comedy that goes on, a lot of satire, but a lot of good information that goes down there too. So for sure, if you guys are thinking about it, I highly recommend it. But yeah, everyone, thank you for tuning in. This has been a great episode of the Old Trainer Profiles here. We finally got Dan at KetchumAllCollectibles. We caught him. We got him, guys. The immovable force has finally met the unstoppable, or the immovable object has finally met the unstoppable force. What has happened? I guess we'll have to see after the fallout of this video happens. But
yeah,
thanks
again for having me on. Nice chat.
I greatly appreciate your time, man. And until the next time, we'll see you next time, chat.